Welcome back to Corporate Time with Tom and Dan. I'm Tom.
I am Dan.
Again, our documentary is on Amazon. If you are a Prime member, it's free. I started out free last week. So if you want to watch it for free, just go to your Amazon video and then click play.
Yeah, it's free for you, and we'd appreciate it if you check it out. I mean, everybody's looking for content and stuff to do right now. That's why we're trying to pump out as many shows and video content as humanly possible. So right now, we only got a little bit more time in today's show. Let's jump into some emails.
Okay. This says, remote presentations in the world of COVID-19. Hey, dudes. Longtime BDM and former Orlando resident here. I live in Denver now. In the last few weeks, we've seen an unprecedented shift towards remote work. My company alone now has over 100,000 people working from home, which has generally worked well, but still presents some challenges. Quite often, myself and many others speak publicly to crowds from just a handful of people to thousands. We've been trying to shift to remote, but doing this online with a mediocre webcam and headset honestly sucks. From years of listening, it's obvious you have a passion and near impeccable execution for broadcast quality and detail. So I was wondering if you could provide some recommendations for a decent home broadcast hardware, camera/mic setup, or at least maybe point me in the direction you might look. Those who present a lot are pretty well funded, but still probably would like to keep things in the less than $500 range. Thanks so much and stay safe out there. That's the alert.
Hold on a second. There are fairies attacking me.
What is happening?
That sounds like
over
fairies, doesn't it? What is that? I said it. Oh, God. Stop. Okay. I'm sorry.
That's the boring email alert.
You know what? You know what I like? I like the guy going, in years of doing this, you have you are so professional and you never make a mistake. Broadcast quality audio. You do it right every single time, except you forgot to turn off your blanking cell phone, you idiot. Okay. I like the Logitech brand of webcams. We have 6 of them in here, or 5 that are usable and 1 on loan. They're about $50 to $85. You can get them at Best Buy or Amazon. I like the 920C. Yeah, 920C. But it's been, they upgraded it. It's been retired, so you can't get this one anymore. You got to get the upgrade, but that's great. For you, about the same price, $65.
Yeah.
Camera, as far as audio interface, I like anything by Focusrite. That's what we use here. We've had it for, well, this one's relatively new. That's like 2 years old. And if you need a board or anything, I prefer Yamaha. We've had 2 Yamaha boards for the entire duration of the show, and neither one of them have ever broken. There's never been an issue, never a problem. They've been road tested, dropped, whatever you can think of, and they're great. That's about all I got. But if you need, shoot me the email, just dan@tomandan.com if you need a deep dive. But most of the stuff's like pretty easy now.
Do you want my opinion on what
Yes.
technology?
I think we should. I mean, you at least turn your cell phone off.
I like the rectangle style camera with the little dot in the middle.
Gotta have the dot.
Yeah. The dot is really key to.
Well,
I think
some say dot, but I say lens. That's what that is.
And
but the dot is essential.
Then it's got to have a wire attached to it going somewhere.
Well, you can't get the information from the dot to the thinking box.
Yeah.
If you don't have like a big piece of black dental floss coming down.
Then you need to talk into this cylinder-like stuffed animal thing.
Yeah, it's like 2 Coke cans.
Stuffed animal? What animal is it?
Well, it's
like a black snake.
It's a
poofy
it's like a
snake.
stuff.
Yeah,
very
it's a poofy,
soft. It's got a soft front.
Talking to the soft
hard back.
Yeah,
okay.
Talking to the soft front.
And then it's got a wire to it as well.
Yeah, it's got or a piece of string.
Then you need a TV with the waves, and then the
TV.
The people talking with the words.
Okay,
and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty
and
easy,
then
pretty simple stuff.
And you can either turn it up or down, and there you go.
Yeah.
So write all that down. So get yourself one of those cameras, rectangle camera with the dot. Next email.
Okay. This says, best of live stream. Hey, Dan, I was just catching up on some shows today, and I started thinking about the idea of you guys having a 24/7 streaming best of.
Oh, yeah, that's what we need. More work. I'll stay here all the time. Kill myself.
My thinking is, obviously this would take some time to produce, but you could probably do a 4-hour best of show stream that changes over once every X number of days or once a week. I'm thinking of it kind of like the Chive
Who wrote
TV
that? Did
app,
Tom write that? Who wrote this?
where you kind of pop in on an already streaming segment, maybe catch a favorite one live,
So
and
like
then a week
MTV,
later,
like I'm a VJ of our own like videos?
And then a week later, you might check back in and hear some new best of stuff. I'm just an ideas man with an idea that isn't new, but wasn't sure if this was something you guys had considered.
I mean,
Take
it's
care.
not a bad idea. It's not.
Yeah.
But it's just the execution. It would be. I guess it wouldn't be that hard. I've already got. Okay, let's think.
I mean, you can always go back and watch the streams.
Yeah, let's think about it.
But he wants to curate every really funny moment in the show.
Oh, God.
And then you go back through 11 years of the show. There's some funny ass that I mean in different like things and improvs that we come up with and phone calls and stuff. I mean, you just take the best parts of the show of 11 years, and you could probably make a 5-hour just incredible best of where every single
that would be
segment is the funniest thing
and
ever.
then you could pop in and pop out.
We just got to ACT best of audio, so the fact of doing a live stream, that's probably going to be a couple years out.
You know what?
If someone wants to do that, I'll I'll put a $500 ransom up.
Okay.
Well, what the hell? I'll do it.
Oh, you have to comb through 11 years of content for the best. I mean,
$500.
It'll take you 6 months.
No, but does he want video only? Is that what do I understand?
I'm assuming
that?
He wants it as a live stream on Twitch.
Okay. I think we could do that. Like, I already have all the video pulled and edited.
Or you can go to YouTube,
right? At least the recent ones. Yeah, you can go to our YouTube channel, Tom and Dan Live. Just search for that. It's the same as the Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're actually live on Twitch right now. If you don't know what we're talking about and you're tuning into the program, you can go to twitch.tv/Tom and Dan Live and watch our shows live. We're live right now. Or you can go to YouTube and just type in Tom and Dan Live, and I mean, hundreds of videos will pop up. Really good stuff on there. Cartoons by Swervy Jones. It's too much content.
And I've always wanted to. I mean, we have best of. Daniel just put up 3 mega mixes, and that's basically a best of the podcast and BDM shows, and
with really creepy Japanese imaging
and comedian interviews and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it just takes a lot of time to put all that stuff together. Then you'd have to comb through shows. You'd have to find best of segments and the funniest jokes. And it'd
be a bit of an undertaking.
It would be a full-time job for months to comb through that much audio.
Another suggestion in the Twitch chat was someone said, I would like a get to know Tom and Dan intro show with a concise info packaged history of all the friends of the show pinned at the top of the app. When I get new people into the show, they don't get everything because they don't know the history and who all the references are. So more work for you guys.
Yeah.
I'll put Tom on that assignment.
Now, see, I'm a little bit different in this one because part of the fun when I was like originally getting into like talk radio, which would eventually become podcasting.
Yeah.
Part of the fun of it to me would be to put the time in for me to personally figure out who each character was.
And their background.
It's almost like watching a show. Like, you don't go and watch Mr. Robot and then, let me get out my guidebook of every character. I mean, I guess some people do, but I would say you're in the minority if you do that.
But we're also in an instant gratification society.
But I also wouldn't start Mr. Robot like season 3, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to know all the history, you kind of have to go back to the beginning.
I don't think our show, like, you didn't have to catch season 1 to catch season 10.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, but to get to know, like, when someone talks about Pudge, they're like, oh, who's Pudge?
Yeah. Well, and that just takes time. I mean, sometimes
who's Pudge is a very complicated answer.
I also don't think Pudge is real because we've never heard
Pudge
from him.
is real. Hashtag Pudge is real.
Yeah, he's my one friend that listens to the show the most because he's got
don't believe it. I think it's your other personality.
No, he's got like an hour commute to work every day.
I think Pudge is your mental disorder. When you were Fat Tom, you called yourself Pudge.
Wait, so one day I'll blow my cheek off?
Yeah, so you're saying this is like a Tyler Durden thing?
Yeah. So I think he is Pudge.
You're Pudge Durden. Tell me something, man. Like, okay, you say Pudge listens the most, and I believe that because he's told me that because I know Pudge.
Yeah.
Does Pudge know that we talk about him on the show? Like, does he smile about that? Like, because you would think he'd hear us talking about him and he'd call in and be like, hey, it's me, Pudge. Because Samantha has been calling for a Pudge interview for I want to say months now.
I don't think he wants to be on the show.
Yeah.
I think he just likes
He just
the show.
enjoys the show.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be a character. And that makes me want him to be a character more because he doesn't want it.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I don't like the people that want to be on the
character,
show.
Though.
Well, he's not even, like, he doesn't want to, like.
He's funny,
I want a Pudge Durden shirt now.
Pudge is funny. He's really funny.
He is funny, but he's a little bit curmudgeon.
Yeah, he's grumpy. Yeah.
He's brothers to Turkey Leg.
Yeah. Really grumpy.
Yeah.
Oh,
he's
man.
the grumpy.
He's the grumpy.
He's the grumpy old man. And then his brother Pudge, more lighthearted, but still grumpy.
Yeah. Rounder and more lighthearted.
Crashed into a lot of trees back in high school. I'll tell you a Pudge story.
Oh, yeah! Pudge story!
I don't even know if it wants me to tell you that.
What was that? It was like...
Pudge is coming through. Pudge is coming through.
Somebody clipped that. That's some crazy... Yeah, you went... I'll tell you a Pudge story. Like,
He's coming through.
He's turning! Give me the screwdriver! Give me the screwdriver! I'm going to stab his eyes!
One day, Pudge wakes up.
Hold on, I gotta pull my blankets up if you're gonna tuck me in with a Pudge story.
And it's the neighbor ringing his parents' doorbell. Right, it's still in high school, right?
Classic Pudge.
So his I think his mom or his old man goes to the door, and the neighbor's like, "Excuse me, I followed muddy tire tracks from my house down the street." Which you ran over my tree and my mailbox and ran through my yard and then just drove about a football field length down the street and parked in your own driveway with my tree still stuck in the grill of your truck.
Pudge.
And then oil leaking off from the damage, and it's obviously like literally from the neighbor's house, which is a straight shot to Pudge's parents' house. There was the knockdown,
the Pudges,
knockdown mailbox and tree and tire tracks through the yard, and then mud tire tracks too.
Man, kids are dumb.
And then
was he hitting the old bottle?
Oh no, completely sober. What do you think?
Yeah.
Punching
Is
over
that
his
something you do?
He drives like an Asian woman.
You don't want to crash into my neighbor's tree and then just drive straight to my house. Go to sleep.
People do that a lot.
And then,
people do that a lot.
In trouble.
My
crazy.
favorite is my car's stuck. I don't know what to do, but I'm really close to my house, so I walked home. But they don't cut the car off. They leave the car running, lights on, door open. I'm like, look, I don't care how drunk I am. There's an episode of Live PD where this older guy that looks like the My Pillow man. It looks exactly like, I remember this episode. It looks just like Mr. My Pillow. He hits one of those giant coquina rocks that are like super expensive that are popular in Miami, right? But they do the decorative ones for like golf courses and gated communities. Obviously, this guy's rich and he's loaded. So the cops pull up. And before they get to the dwelling, just like your Pudge story, they find it looks like a Lexus, a nice big Lexus, crashed into coquina rocks. But every light in the car is on, like dome, headlights, door open, ding, 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 car running, radio going. Yeah. And I'm like, well, wouldn't you have thought, even if you crashed it, just shut everything down? So the guy walks, the car's just running, right? Walks down to his house and goes to bed. And they ring the doorbell, and this guy, you could tell this wasn't his first rodeo because he answers the door holding a rocks glass of whiskey.
That works, by the way.
Yeah, it does work. They couldn't do anything to him.
I've heard multiple stories from people I know that this is true, that have done this, and they've gotten away with it.
They said something, because
emergency whiskey?
They never came back to it, but they said something about possibly being able to do something because he'd left the car completely was on. Like somebody was in the car, you know? And they knew, like they ran the car's plate and it ran to like 15 feet from the wreck. It's like, oh, it's registered to this house. They walk over there and the guy's
still
drunk.
Impossible to prove that you were drunk while you did that. Or, I mean, since the police officers are like, yeah, he answered the door with a beer, you know, then I got all freaked out. I went home. I had to calm down. It's not illegal to do stupid things unless they're illegal. You see what I'm saying? Like the way you act is not necessarily illegal. It's like, oh, I freaked out. I walked home. I started drinking. And then, like, you can't really prove that he didn't.
Well, I mean, honestly, like, I had a close call last night on my scooter. I went home. First thing I did was grab a beer because I was, shaking. And I couldn't tell if I was shaking because I needed a beer or shaking because I'm truly shaken up. We got to get out of here. TomandDan.com for all things Tom and Dan. As always, everybody out there, wash your hands, stay safe, stay inside. Let's take care of each other, be kind to each other, and we will see you tomorrow.
Welcome to your bonus episode of BYOCB. This is your State of Podcasting episode. My name's Fisher. I'm your host. When we talked about doing this earlier in the year, I think we pitched it more to our Patreon members. I wanted to gather together some of the local podcasts in Central Florida and talk to them about kind of their origins, where they came from, where they're at right now, and what they think of the future of podcasting. With so many national podcasts out there, it seems like everyone has a podcast. It just continues to grow and grow. So on today, I would rather be there with them sitting on the couch. I would already be feeding them tactical beers at not even 11 a.m. But it's the guys from T&D Media, along with Samantha, their producer, also of her podcast, Semantics. So thank you all for joining me this morning. I greatly appreciate it.
Oh, man, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you. I know that things are not ideal right now, but it is kind of a cool. I am trying to keep like more of a positive spin and an attitude on things, and I'm pretty proud of technology and knowing how to do this. It's kind of cool to still be able to talk and do what we do daily.
Yeah,
it is.
That's crazy, and the fact that consumer grade electronics are this good should everybody should pause for a second and be thankful for that, I think.
Yep. So we've got Daniel Dennis and Thomas Van from T&D Media. You guys have a whole bunch of different podcasts. Obviously, a mediocre time with Tom and Dan. You do a corporate time as well. We haven't been focused. So obviously, for our show for BYOCB, we've shifted because we were always a to-go studio show, or not a studio show. We were always a remote show. So we're out and about, at a bar or a brewery. So we've now shifted to the virtual model, which has been quite a change for us. But how is this, I don't want to focus just on the COVID stuff, but how has this really impacted you all? Because I feel as a podcaster, there's even more of a demand for what we do.
Well, I mean, so far we kind of decided as a company that we were going to continue to record and kind of treat, there's only 4 of us.
When he says we decided as a company, he forced me and Butler to come here every day.
Yeah. And then I said, if you don't show up, you're fired.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, that was my part.
And if you get the virus,
Right.
still show up, then no matter what, rain or shine. We're like the post office.
We're exactly like the post office.
Yeah. I deliver things on my spare time.
Yeah.
But the things that people don't even want.
I
I go around and I put stuff in people's mailbox. Most of my pubes.
That's a federal crime,
I
sir.
put some pubes in your mailbox.
I'm sorry. I can't take anything serious. No, but I agree. It's although if you've noticed, everybody is posting more on social media and posting more podcasts, and people that normally like did live shows have switched to podcasts. So I feel like now more than ever, there's a gigantic surge in content from everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, through social media, through any audio content, through small clips, through video clips. Like, man, there's a lot of stuff to consume, and it's almost overwhelming the tidal wave of content hitting the earth right now. Through a variety of different sources.
It's a lot. Like I actually thought, because of we're having this much content being pushed out constantly, I actually thought we might end up having an issue with our internet. You know what I mean? Like we've never globally.
I'm surprised.
I am surprised. I've never globally seen this many people streaming. I don't know if you have, Fisher, but I think it's kind of a test to see if we could even do this amount of content, and it seems to be working pretty well. I will say though, it is kind of funny to see some celebrities and people roll out online content when they're not necessarily ready, and to see them kind of fumble with it has actually made me feel a little better. Because it makes me feel like they're on their side. It makes me feel they're a little more human, and it actually makes me feel like we're a little more prepared. So
we even set up a Twitch channel. Juan helps us with that, because we've got our intern who hosts trivia, lost his gig. So we have moved his trivia model that he did at a brewery, and we're doing that live on Twitch now. So, we've had to adjust in any way that we can to continue to try and put content out there for folks, because we know, everyone's kind of stuck at home. So it's definitely been a shift. But we when I say we as a podcast, we've been doing BYCB for we're going on 5 years, but I started early 2014 with a sports podcast. But you guys were really, really, really early in the scene, and I understand your background in your radio days. But what was the scene like when you guys came in? Because like I said, now you have many, 700,000 plus podcasts, 700,000 plus podcasts. When you guys came in, pretty minimal. What was it like even trying to get people to say, hey, this is what a podcast is. This is how you can go find it.
It was kind of hard. I remember, pardon me, I remember the initial, excuse me, is that
no.
Corona getting me? I can remember having an initial meeting. There were only like 2 podcasts that I knew of in Orlando, and they weren't even, I don't even think they really considered themselves or called themselves podcasts, because the term wasn't thrown around.
It was like internet radio show.
Yeah,
right?
well, that's what everybody tried to turn it into, because, I was coming from the radio world. Tom and I were friends. I met up with Jeff, who very good friends with Ross and Mickey and all these guys who did a podcast called SoMaCal. And I met up with Jeff to kind of pick his brain about what he did. He gave me some pointers. I had the vast majority of the equipment already at the house, but as far as to answer your question directly, there were only 2 shows that I knew of at the time that had been doing it. But again, they weren't podcasts. They were more like, hey, we're doing this. We can't get on the radio. We're doing internet radio. We'd like to be on the radio, but since that's not available, and since maybe we didn't go down that business track, now we are doing it on our own. And when we started doing our podcast, the famous ones that were out there for me were like Keith and the Girl. That was one.
Corolla started around like a couple months before we did, when he was doing it out of his house and stuff. And
I listened to Corolla.
Marin was out there.
Yeah, I think
Rogan,
right around the same time.
2009.
Yeah, it was 09.
But there was less, and obviously with less, podcast and that style content, there was more audience per podcast, which makes sense. Because there was less podcasts out there. Now, back then, there was less podcast listeners, because I remember a time where we debated whether we should even call ourselves a podcast, and we kind of branded ourselves as a show, because podcasting then had kind of a negative connotation to it as a like amateur hour, or not real media or something. So
it was, at one point it was going down a road, and see if you agree with this.
Yeah.
It was going down a road that it almost sounded, it was put in the same categories like ham radio. It was like you were tinkering. You were a novice.
That's where he joked around about playing radio.
Yeah,
it used to be a joke, and so there was a lot less. Now, the audience numbers were bigger back then because there was less. And as the popularity of podcasting grew, and as people got, smartphones, and in society, everybody got smartphones, and the ease of listening, like that's what me and Daniel.
Conductivity in your car.
Yeah. And
CarPlay, Android. What is that? The Android version of that, I guess.
And we were lucky back then, too, because we had a buddy, Joe, that he'd never built one before, but he's a computer genius, and he was like, I think I could build you guys an app. And we're like, no, oh, we'll do it, and he just, as a personal challenge to himself, built our first app, and that was like 2010 or something like that we had an app that we could release on the Apple Store, and then also there wasn't even Google Play back then. Back then, there wasn't a
Apple was the only basically entity that was raw for podcasting. Google was way late to the challenge, and that Fisher, just from the stuff that you do with BYOCB. I mean, Google was like light years behind Apple when it comes to podcast support.
So and I say this all the time, and I don't know if it's 100% true. It just makes sense. It makes logical sense with the explosion of the amount of podcasts. I've been calling it like the great delusion of content. Basically, when you flood the market with millions or hundreds of thousands of podcasts and audio content, there's only so much audience. So it basically segregates all the audience into these small little groups, and And it also makes it so whatever you want to listen to about whatever topic, like it seems like podcasting back in the day kind of took the same route as like talk radio shows, where it was like, hey, let's do a show that kind of can bring in the broadest audience. Let's make it broad appeal.
It's like a variety.
Yeah, let's make it about news and popular topics, and make it so that we can get the most amount of listeners that we can. And now everything's so specific that you could listen to podcasts about literally any topic that you want. And very specifically any topic. I mean, for instance, you did a Bucks podcast. I mean,
Sure.
That's pretty damn specific. It's about
It is.
An NFL team and only about that one NFL team. And there are a lot of people that are interested in that NFL team. So, you have the possibility of getting a lot of listeners, but it's a very specific topic. And nowadays, that's where we're at now. So you can get and listen to talk content about any topic you want, and thus has created less of an audience overall for individual podcasts. But it still has the opportunity, like for any size podcast, for you to have a super engaged audience, and that's where it seems like everything is moving to, and even for advertising and stuff, like having a really engaged audience that you can therefore figure out how to monetize or whatever you want to do with it.
And to go back and I'll end our answer, which is a big fat answer. I'll end it.
Forgot the question,
but I'll give you just to give you and your listeners a little bit of like the difference in the amount of people that were listening and the amount of shows. We at one time, and this is the highest we ever charted, but on the Apple Podcast comedy, the broad category comedy, not the whittled down improv.
Right.
It was just
they segmented
comedy.
it too much now.
Yeah, they segmented it now, but it was just comedy, and of course there were your Marins and the people in there.
A lot of things fell into that category.
Yeah, and we hit number 11.
Which is insane.
I remember where I was standing when I found I was at the Moe's near Millennium Mall with my wife. And I go, oh my God. I was like, holy crap, we hit number 11. I screenshot. I still have the screenshot somewhere. And now we wouldn't even land in the top 250. I think that's all they categorize now. We're still, if I can, occasionally I can find a backdoor way in or something like that, we'll hit. We're typically in the top 500, which is still amazing.
Yeah,
but
considering how many there are now.
But to hit 11 was like, holy S, like that's huge. I mean, the shows that hit number 11 now would be like a Marin or be like a Rooster Teeth or some of these shows that have been out and just are exploded and got mega huge.
They were also loose with the analytics and how they even gauge downloads and stuff. And and I don't know this to be true, but it seemed like the industry was trying to compete with mainstream media. Although the problem was mainstream media's numbers were completely blown out of proportion, exaggerated, and it was because of the system and how they measured numbers, and that had gotten too out of control, where the system, being Arbitron or whatever, was basically the only people paying that company were giant media corporations. So seemingly it was in their best interest to report numbers that were, advantageous to these companies. They kind of like scratch each other's backs. Like, so of course you don't have this like completely independent company that was paid by another party that wasn't the companies that needed the information. So it was set up to be, screwed up to begin with.
Yeah.
But anyway, that got out of control, and you had all these mainstream media reporting these numbers that were exaggerated like crazy. And then you have this podcast industry trying to get up to match mainstream media's numbers.
Yeah.
So the podcast industry, whether it be like a tons of different hosting agencies and stuff, were liberal with the way that they were calculating the numbers.
They've just now regulated it in the past year and a half.
And that was a way to try to garner interest from bigger advertisers. But at one time, I remember we had a podcast that had like almost 100,000 downloads. And I remember going, oh my God, but those numbers were completely blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
And then there was the great, podcast number reorganization where they
you might be going to that. I don't know. We're jumping the gun.
Sorry,
here. Yeah, that might be one of your questions.
Yeah, but anyway, and then they kind of regulated a lot more and brought everybody back to reality. But that didn't happen that long ago. It was like 5 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, we being Samantha and Daniel and I had many conversations about that when our hosting company that we host on and you all host on kind of flipped the script and changed things a little bit, and we're like, whoa, this is dramatically decreased our downloads by a huge number. And the thing that like you were saying, Tom, what they were doing is, if you get X amount of downloads per episode, we can sign you on with podcasters, like with Dollar Shave Club, just as an example. So if you're getting 10,000 downloads per episode, we'll cut you a deal with this Dollar Shave Club. We'll take a chunk of it. You take a chunk of it. But then when they cut your downloads in half, like, well, how does that now impact the monetization for these folks that had these deals with you all as the hosting company, that now they're not going to get paid because they're not seeing the numbers?
Oh yeah, it screwed a lot of people out of a lot of money, and because it cut your numbers in half, would basically cut your revenue in half, because these big companies like a Dollar Shave Club or a Squarespace or whatever, everybody's heard them. The companies that primarily advertise the podcast.
We had a few of them: Audible, Harry's. Squarespace. We early on we took some of those, but we had inflated numbers.
And the business model back then was like they would pay per 1,000 download, and that was the deal. So if you were in business with those type of advertisers, your numbers got cut in half. Although all for the greater good, because your actual numbers didn't get cut in half. So it's like your listening audience didn't change. Just your numbers. It's kind of like in radio when they would change PPM meters. And for those of you who don't know that, it's like this tiny beeper-like thing. So fucking antiquated, these companies still. It's ridiculous. But you would send 70 out in the metropolitan Orlando area.
Yeah, I think we have 88.
Something like that. Stupid. And then people would walk around and it would detect any sort of AM FM frequency that you were around, and then you'd have to plug it in, and that's how they got their analytics. But I remember when like someone would turn in a PPM meter, or it would change, the company, the Clear Channel or iHeart, would come to us and be like, they changed PPM meters, your ratings went down, it says here now you have like 8,000 less listeners per quarter hour or whatever. The way they do the numbers are ridiculous. So, but it'd be like, wait a minute, our show never changed from yesterday to today. We don't actually have 8,000 and less listeners. No. It's just the numbers the way that you calculate them, the way that the numbers are represented is less, but it's not reality. It's not like 8,000 of our listeners stopped listening from yesterday to today. So if this,
it could have been one of your hot takes, Tom.
Yeah, could have been one of your.
Might have got canceled.
Could have been a racist hot take.
So it's not.
That'll do it.
It's not any sort of representation of reality. It's just the numbers change.
Yeah, all it is the system.
And if it's not reality, then what the fuck are we even looking at? You know what I'm saying? Right. So our numbers, our downloads didn't actually get cut in half, but the recording of them got cut in half. So anything that's closer to reality is better for everybody. Because if we all live in reality, it's better. I mean,
except the reality we're living in right now, this is pretty bad.
Yeah, you're right. But giant media companies still live in this bullshit ratings world that's completely antiquated and fake.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that they live in that still. But I imagine things will change and are changing pretty rapidly.
Yeah, I exchanged some not so friendly emails back and forth with podcast Hall of Famer Dave Jackson on the topic when I wasn't really appreciative of just asking a question and him sending me a YouTube seminar how I can get more engagement and more downloads for the podcast. But you guys touched on a couple things earlier when you were mentioning the Buccaneers show. So Tom, when I was doing that content, literally 3 to 4 maybe audio podcasts were out there. And it's funny because I just got re-engaged with it because, sitting at home, they're not doing much and people are still hitting me up for interviews.
Sure.
The Tom Brady thing, obviously, there's a lot of interest now in that's that team, but there's over 50 now, just whatever, if you just consider it content. So it could be YouTube shows or a podcast. There's over 50 now just on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which I found unreal because of the fact that it's such a niche. And that's what I always ask folks, what is if you're going to start a podcast, tell me what your niche is. Like, well, we're a comedy show and we're going to, okay, comedy's not a niche. Comedy is a genre. A niche would be you're a comedy show that watches Golden Girls episodes and you comment on each episode, right?
Yeah.
That then is a specific topic. It's a niche. In a flooded marketplace, how important is it to have something that is more niche that you can say in 30 seconds or less, this is what we do, this is what our show is about, or make it easier for people to find you versus just saying, we're a comedy show. Like we are at BYCB, you guys are a comedy show, Semantics is a comedy show.
Yeah, no,
I wish we had something far more specific. It's just, when we started the show, we just did what we've always done, and
talk radio style,
just
improv.
Talk radio style. Yeah. And, so like when I see pointed or more, let's say direct, focused shows, yeah, I'm personally, I'm a little jealous of that because I think it is easier to point people to something that's finite.
That's what you have to do, I think, now. I mean, we're lucky enough, you, Samantha, us, where we started long enough ago that we have at least an engaged audience that's with us
and
that's
our
listened
social
to us
media
for long
presence
enough.
is big. Our videos, we do videos, content.
But
it's
to be honest, getting any new listeners is rough. You could. There's a variety of different ways to do it. I mean, there are people that still like word of mouth is the best for us, and really the best for everybody is like friends. Referring friends, but. If you start a podcast now, like I completely agree, you have to get a very specific niche and then hope to kind of attach yourself onto, like you said, Golden Girls, but there's tons of podcasts that, like, if you attach yourself onto a show or something that's hot right now, whatever,
with a fan base,
yeah, and then people like really want other content besides just the show, then you could do it. But good luck because I guarantee you, there's probably dozens of Westworld podcasts and there's dozens of whatever show there's out there podcasts. It's so easy, and the barrier to entry is so little that people are flooding the market with content. So finding good content, that's the difference, though. That comes with reps. And if you start a podcast, there's really no other substitute other than time and reps.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You have to be okay with it. If you did want to start, and I get these emails all the time, and we've talked about them on the show. I get emails all the time from people that ask me, like, hey, I want to start a podcast. Me and my buddies like to sit around and have some craft beer, and we want to just, shoot the shit and record it. And that's fine, but you have to be okay with understanding that there is so much saturation of that style of content out there that you have to just continue doing it and be realistic about how many downloads you're going to get. And just grind. And if you're okay with that, then do it. Then I say do it. If that's what you enjoy doing, then do it. But don't think that you're going to instantly be able to flip that and make it lucrative. You might, but I'm going to tell you it's going to be really, 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 really unlikely and hard to do. So I would just grind it out.
Also, I have a piece of advice.
You got pizza advice.
I got pizza advice.
Hungry. Pizza advice party.
Little pepperoni, more delicious than bigger pepperoni.
They're good.
It is.
The little minis.
That works for nipples too.
But,
because the big nipples, sometimes it looks like you've taken a big titty and just dipped it in a paint bucket.
If I was giving someone advice about starting a podcast, I would say start your podcast, record it, but don't release it
ever.
Probably 20. do 25 episodes before you release publicly your first one, because the problem is people start their podcasts
without any experience.
Even ours is weird. If you go back and listen to it, it's all shitty.
But at least we had 10 years
of radio time,
of talking time, literally 5 hours a day for 10 years. I mean, that's a lot of reps before we even started our podcast. I guess it wasn't 10 years. I started in 2003, so it was like 6 years of me and you working together. But we still had a lot of time talking with each other.
We wrote constantly. We'd write songs and bits, and we'd do promotions together.
So the way people screw themselves is they start a podcast, and their first 5 to 10 are garbage before they get the hang of it. And now they may be like 100 in, and it's really dialed in now. But then you tell your audience to check you out, and they start from number 1 or whatever.
Never start from 1.
And then they're like, this is garbage. garbage, and then they never listen again because they think number 1 is the same as number 100. It's going to get better with reps. Like, you're going to, get better with experience. But people, they start off and they're like, let's put out our first one. Their first show is usually really bad.
Whenever I listen to a new podcast, not saying it's new, but new to me, I will start with the latest one that they've released, and if I like it, then I'll go back to the beginning because then I'm like, okay, I'll invest in this. You know,
that's smart.
It's just just be careful about the first initial ones you put out to the public because they could be bad.
Wipe mine out.
And it really doesn't matter because you could talk. Like, I don't know who's listening to this. Like, when we do shows, we don't really know. You have an idea, and it's in your head,
but you don't know
that you have an audience, and that's kind of why we talk the way we do, and we're having this conversation in a more. This is a different thing. Like, this isn't the way we would normally talk to each other. This is kind of a performance.
We don't talk to each other.
No. But so you have to work your way into that, and it just takes time.
Agreed.
Yeah, I tell people the same thing that you did, Daniel. When people are emailing you and saying, I have this idea for a podcast, I really want to do it and just get together with my friends and hang out. I think you were repeating the email that I probably sent you 7 years ago. It's exactly what my show is.
That's hilarious.
So I tell people, look, if that is what you're going to do, if you're not a specific niche podcast, if there's not a topic where even if you had that topic, it's going to be hard to stand out. People still have to find you. But if you're passionate about the topic that you're talking about or just the podcast itself, and you just want to do it as an outlet, and you're okay with 10 people listening to it, like your friends and family, and maybe it's going to take a really long time to develop an audience, as long as you're okay with that, then it's fine.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
If you come into it thinking, oh, I'm going to get, in a Facebook group, we're going to create it, I'm going to have 1,000 people in there, no time, and I'm going to make money, and I'm going to get advertisers say, well, it's a grind. You're going to have to spend years, because it might have been easier. Like, when we got into it 5 years ago for our show, it might have been easier back then versus what it is today. If we launched today, it'd be very difficult to get the amount of engagement that we currently have. So
same with us,
you guys have such an engaged audience, and you've really developed that over time. You guys mentioned the fact that it's really hard now to get the new listeners because of all the saturation. But I sat on a boat I think it was a Carnival boat. Daniel, you were puking in your cabin, I believe. I think it was Samantha and I sat with Tom.
I remember that.
He gave me if you can get 100 people to listen to what you tell them to do, you can make $1,000 a month.
100 people equals $1,000. Hold on a second. We should be fucking rich right now.
I may have said 1,000. 100 maybe a bit too small.
Well, no, it was. I believe the conversation was something like, if you can get 100 people to listen, then you can get 200 people to listen. You can get 200 people to listen. You get 300 people to listen.
If you get 300 people. Yeah, Sam and I know that.
That seems like good advice. I like that one.
Sometimes they go on for a very long time. It's like, if you can get me 1 advertiser, I can get you 2 advertisers. You get 2 advertisers, 3 advertisers, 3, and a 4, and a 4, and a 5, and a 5 to 6, and a 6, and a 7, and go. Give me that big old dog ass.
I do think that people's expectations of audience are way too high, and when they're
not appreciative of 100 people is a lot of fucking people, man. You should be totally appreciative of that.
And you're seeing a lot of mainstream media go through this now, where they're going into the internet and doing internet content, and I'm sure that it's making them infuriated that they're not having the numbers they thought they did. When they go to YouTube or Facebook or podcast, and then they're looking at the numbers. They're like, wait a minute, I have hundreds of thousands of listeners. Why does it say I have 2,400? You know what I'm saying? They're
sure.
Same thing that happened to me when I was in mainstream media and I saw social media come out, because I was working. Me and Daniel were working at the time. We saw the start of all social media. So when we saw that, and then we started seeing the social media numbers and the people following us, that's when the light bulb turned on to us. And we're like, wait a minute, these numbers that they had told us for years about the numbers of audience, it's not being represented by the social media numbers.
It's just confusing. It's like to look at your Twitter page and for me to, for the station we're working at, you guys have 35,000 people that like this Facebook page. I put a post on there. I got 2 likes.
Yeah.
Well, then what's happening?
People are faking it, and corporations are learning how to fake it, and they were just hiring nerds to fake the numbers to try to get them to the point where they thought their audience should be, because that's what they had been drinking their own Kool-Aid for so long. But I mean, but my biggest realization with all that is like when we started putting out YouTube videos and we started promoting them and stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute, I had 5,400 people watch me jump Gravedigger, and we've been promoting this all week, and you're telling me that we have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of listeners. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like, everybody's got YouTube, but I'm talking like 2010. We're not talking about like 95. I'm like, this is 2010. Everybody's got YouTube or access to a computer, to the internet, and either only 5% of our audience gives a shit about this, or the numbers are way less than you guys think they are.
And I think I don't even look, and years ago I focused more on our hosting company and stats and what it was looking like daily versus weekly versus monthly, and could I find a trend? But I don't even look at that anymore, because I want to see engagement. I want to see how many people, if I tell them to go over to Tactical Brewing and grab a crowler, how many people are doing that, and then how many people are posting that on social media and tagging them. To me, I feel like engagement now is even way more important for those of us here in local podcasts to really stand out, and to note that numbers may not be that important when it comes to downloads, but it's your engagement, and can you get your listeners involved with your sponsors and going to your social media and engaging with you guys. I think engaging content is more important than just sheer download numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because psychologically, I think that like other companies, even small businesses, they fall into the mindset of thinking like a Coca-Cola or a GM or something, where they're like, well, how many numbers am I going to get exposed to? Like, well, that doesn't fucking matter to like Tactical Brewing Company or like a small business, because the only thing that matters to them is how many people are buying beers. Like,
I don't know how many employees they have. Let's say 10, just for lack of knowing. But what's worth more to them? 5,000 likes on Facebook, or me sending 30 people through their door to buy crowlers. Guarantee you those 30 crowlers count a lot more in their pocketbooks.
Oh yeah, and we've seen it with we've done advertising with billboards, and we've looked into the TV commercials, and
I do miss our buses. Those are cool.
And buses and all that stuff, and they all throw around numbers and impressions and stuff. Like, the impressions is the biggest fucking joke.
I still don't understand
this
what
has 1.5 million impressions. I'm like, great, what does that fucking do? Like, show me the proof of anything this does.
I don't even know what an impression is.
It's just, they're saying that eyes just saw your logo. Now, like for companies like
how long were your eyes on my logo, sir?
For gigantic mega brands like Nike or Coca-Cola, that may make a difference, because at that point they're so big that they can't even keep track of if their advertising works. So they're working in a different world than the small business. But the small business 100% has now realized, like, all I care about is, like, can I pay BYOCB $1,000 a month and get back $2,000 a month in sales through trackable.
It's micros and macros.
Yeah.
We're dealing in tiny little, like, every listener counts.
Yeah. So and that's where the key to making money in this business is working with the smaller businesses that actually can track their return on their investment in advertising, and it does work. And if you have a podcast with an engaged audience, there will be a company that's willing to pay you if you could bring that audience to their business. And it varies, though. Like if you're a brewery, you're selling smaller margins. Obviously, you're selling a beer that you made for $1 for $5 or whatever it is, or $2. But if you're a bigger company that makes more money per customer, like a car dealership, a mortgage company, you have bigger sales. I mean, they may be willing to pay you a lot more, because one customer translates to $5,000 a deal to them, and therefore they're willing to pay you $2,000. And so it does make a difference.
Willing to pay you $2,000, they might be willing to pay you $3,000.
$3,000, $4,000, give me those big old donkey ass legs.
So
I forget how
we're back on the carnival boat again. I pitched this, and I know we had discussions in the past with me going to Podcast Movement, which was in Orlando last year. Seems like forever ago. And one of the things that, and I said, I want to reserve my judgment until I go to it, and then I'll give you guys the feedback after I get back. But one of the things that really blew my mind, and Tom, you were right on with this, is that they get these podcast marketing companies or advertising companies who sit up there on a panel and answer questions about, how to monetize your podcast. But the 99% of the people who are going are not having 20,000 downloads per episode of the people that they're talking about, like a Rogan or a Kreischer or Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsey doing the Office Ladies podcast now, which is blown up huge. So these people that are going and paying their money, the engagement part of meeting other people, meeting other podcasters, talking to people with new technology that's coming out, that was the beneficial component of going. But I thought that there was a great opportunity for someone like you guys to go in as speakers and say local advertising works for small podcasts because of exactly what you were just talking about, Tom. I went and rewatched the documentary. Folks are listening, you can go to Amazon Prime. It's a mediocre documentary, correct, with Tom and Dan?
Yes.
You can go and watch that. And Tom, you kind of talked about the local model, but to me, that makes more sense. That all these people that are coming in are not getting the amount of downloads. They're small podcasts. They might be new podcasts. And I talked to so many of them and said, look, we have local advertisers and it works. And the people engage with them. So you guys, Tom, I know you talked about it on the documentary, but went through that model a long time ago when you were first getting into it. So what made you think really of, instead of selling boner pills and HelloFresh, we should really focus on those local businesses where they can see an impact?
Well, I kind of took the model of local radio because we worked in that, business for so long.
Yeah, we were fairly familiar with it.
So not only I had a lot of contacts with local small business from that, but also I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I see what local radio does with advertising, and they're working with primarily, like, there's bigger agencies, and they'll get the McDonald's money, and like the Oreo Kickster will come down and like just bid on whatever.
Those are easy deals, though, and they're usually bought in like giant clumps. So
and
like,
they don't even care about return or whatever.
Yeah, like if Nabisco comes into the market, they buy all 6 stations. I mean, that's such an easy deal.
But I looked and I knew what all these small businesses were paying, and because I was friends with them, so they'd tell me like, "Hey, we pay the radio station X amount," and I was like, "Whoa, that is a lot of money." And so when we started our podcast and we started having engagement, really, I think me and Daniel had the advantage because we saw both sides of it and we saw the local radio business model. And then when we started podcasting, we were able to actually get more people out to events through our podcast than the radio show we were on. Literally at the same exact time, we were doing the podcast, and back then we were talking about like we had 1,000, 1,500 listener downloads or whatever.
Maybe less.
Yeah, something around that. And like the first year we did it, like I remember when we hit 1,000 downloads, we were like, "Whoa, this is cool." Yeah. Now, back then, our mindset was this is cool, but this is nothing compared to the show we're on.
Yeah,
because we were still drinking the radio bullshit juice that the show we were on had hundreds and hundreds of thousands of listeners.
If not millions.
Now, we people threw around the word of millions before.
They did. We had tricked ourselves into thinking that 1,000 downloads when we hit that. And I'm kind of disappointed in myself for not knowing that. It sucks because I think I would have put more value on that earlier on. I think that would have been beneficial for both of us had we believed reality sooner. I feel like maybe we'd be more successful right now, but we were still kind of drinking the Kool-Aid.
But what really hammered home to us that this actually was better and more engaging is when, like, for instance, at that same exact, like, there was a week in time where me and Daniel did a Wing House promotion for the radio station, and Wing House probably paid like $3,500 to $5,500 a month.
It was
to the radio station.
Dude, it was 8 events. So let's. I mean, we can do the math.
It's probably $35,000 or some shit.
I would say at least it was 8 events that you and I had to be at. It was lunchtime, plus the ads that had to run, plus live reads that had to run,
plus they pay us $300 a piece,
plus spots that ran in other day parts of other shows. So if you add all that together, I think maybe 35, 40 grand is probably correct.
So we knew the numbers, and then we'd show up to Wing House, and 8 people would show up, a dozen maybe to come get some free garbage, And
it was the calendar thing, right? Where they were pushing those stupid calendars.
So, and that was par for the course, by the way. And that was considered a success. Like, the company was like, all right, it doesn't really matter who comes because we're getting the word
like
out.
I would say things like this, Chris. Like people would ask me, like, how many guys do you have sign up for to buy a calendar and get it signed by one of the Winghouse girls that's in it? I remember that. Remember?
Yeah,
they had like
yeah.
a local girl, and I was like, yeah, man, it was a good day. I think we had like 8 to 10 people show up,
Yeah,
and they were
yeah,
like,
yeah.
whoa, nice job, like it was like great.
And then the same week, we did a podcast meetup at 903 Mills. By the way, they didn't pay us anything. Why would they?
We
They
just
didn't even
asked
know
them if
it-
we could do it.
We're like, hey, can we do it? And bars were like, okay, like
And they
we
weren't giving us anything either. It wasn't
No,
like they're
no.
like, we'll give you 10% off, we'll give you
No.
parking. No, it was like,
It's like,
yes,
yeah, you can come.
It was like, yes, you can take over part of the patio if people show up.
Yeah,
sure. And you're buying everything. And there was no tabs.
And I remember the first time we even attempted to do a meetup, like 8 months in or whatever, when we started, like 35 to 55 people. Like this is the first one we ever did in like December. And it showed up at 903 Mills, and I was like, whoa! And, like I remember, like this is more people that has showed up for like a meetup or whatever.
It was a lot.
Than any radio promotion, like just bar promotion, because I've done hundreds. Daniel's done hundreds too before this, and I was like, this is the most people that have ever showed up for this kind of thing. Like obviously bigger festivals or like giant Miss Monsters or whatever. Like they had a huge.
I had never seen
audience.
anything like it before. Like I'd never seen the level of engagement where we had people that show. And I know we throw the term engagement around a ton, but like I'd never seen anything like it.
And then that's when I was like, well, shit. I mean, if Winghouse is paying $35,000 or whatever for like a 6-month thing and a dozen people show up, like they probably pay couple $1,000s for this, but you know what I'm saying? Like we can give them more for less money, and we're making more. Like the business wheel started turning for me, and I was like, this has legs. Like if this many people show up,
this has something to do with it too. I remember that night, Pops, who was no longer with them, they had I think they had some sort of falling out.
Yeah.
I remember when I knew that this would work, and this probably kind of added a little sugar to your when you're in there thinking about your business wheels. It was when Pops came out and said, guys, we're going to be out of beer soon. Like, you guys have ravaged the case. It was when Erie Brewing's Railbender was real popular, Chris. Mm-hmm. And we drank every Railbender they had, everything that they had in there. And when he came out, he was like, guys, he was like appreciative. So here we have a tiny local business thanking us for doing something we didn't even know would work.
Yeah.
And you're trying
with one mention and some social media,
Yeah.
like, hey, meet us at 903. We're hanging out then, like
we'll be there after the show.
Before merch. I think it was before we even branded ourselves with the Danger Brain. It was like earlier on. Another story, like after that, working with bigger corporations, is I had contacts with Floor and Decor, a local like flooring and stone and tile or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I knew the GM at the local store over here. And after I left radio, they contacted. They're like, "Hey, we want to do something with you, but you have to talk to our marketing department in Atlanta, And so now this is an example of a bigger corporation that's used to dealing with mainstream media. So I talked to the lady in Atlanta, and I sent her like, back then we had a very rudimentary deck, as they call it, with just like our numbers and how many downloads and that kind of thing.
And it's pretty rudimentary when I'm putting it together.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have Tony working on any Photoshop stuff. We didn't have Travis. Samantha was coming in to do the show, but I don't think at that point you weren't doing any like clerical or like organizational stuff, right? Here and there. Little bit?
Yeah, here and there.
Yeah. And I sent him the numbers we had, and the lady basically laughed at me over email and said, because at that time I was asking for like $250 a month, by the way, which I knew that they were paying like local radio stations or whatever, probably upwards of $5,000 or more.
At least
I was asking for like $250 a month for the amount of numbers we had. And that was just, we were trying to get any sort of advertiser, and they basically laughed at me, and the lady said, like somewhat verbatim, based on these numbers, I'd pay you $50 a month, maybe less.
That.
Like I'm used to millions of listeners, and like I do business with companies with millions.
But I remember being like, now you and I may have had different ways that we internalized that, but that bummed me out because I was like, oh shit, this is never gonna.
Well,
we're never gonna be able to do anything with this.
I told the lady, I was like, listen, here's what we'll do, and this is kind of the start of the koozie thing that we did. But I was like, let me get a month of time. and let's do it for free, or you pay, $50 a month. Okay, you pay the 50. Let me produce co-branded koozies, Floor and Decor, Tom and Dan. I'll drop them off at the local Floor and Decor, and I'll tell our listeners to just go inside and get them. And then that way you'll know how many of our listeners actually went inside your store and got a koozie.
Also, another thing you did is you bought the koozies. We did.
Yeah,
we didn't
invested in.
We put nothing on them. We literally put skin in the game, which I think is important. Like if you're new at this,
no other company is willing to do that.
Well, like sometimes you gotta do something. You can't just go.
You gotta prove yourself.
You can't just go to Tactical Brewing and say like, hey, let me talk about your beers. You
gotta pay me to talk about it.
Yeah, and you give me money. You got to give them. It's almost like
proof.
It's a handshake, you know. And we bought the koozies, and we said, "Look, you're out of pocket nothing. Just let us do this."
So I think we dropped off like 200 koozies, and they were apprehensive about it. I remember they're like, oh, "Okay, we'll do this or whatever." And
it kind of seemed at the time like she was doing it just to be nice.
Yeah. And
seriously, it's a bummer, man.
In a 1 month's time, all the koozies were gone, and the lady emailed me back and said, "We'll pay you whatever you want." And because we've never had this much engagement, we've never had this much response to any media we've ever done.
Oh, but you know what helped us there too?
They started asking their other stores. I was involved.
You had a meeting with it,
because they wanted to do this koozie promotion in Tampa and Miami,
fucking
and then
koozies.
Because the lady's like, we've never seen this many people come in. Like, we need to do this, but what they didn't realize is that we were an anomaly. Like, they tried to do it in Tampa with their local radio station. No one showed up because
it's the same level of engagement.
Same shit as Winghouse. So there's no engagement, and so it didn't work anywhere else. But we worked with them for a long time. It's funny, we worked with them up until they changed their internal marketing. They went to an agency, and then the same shit again. The agency emails me, and then I'm like, all right, we've done really well for Floor and Decor. Here's our numbers. And the agency's like, we don't work with people this small.
We were back
to
square one.
again!
No, but then we lost them. And good thing that we did.
She never emailed me back.
And this is just real talk. We were able to in a matter of maybe less than a year or so, we scooped up at-home floor store. Never been happier. And that one almost might work better. That one might work better because he's a small business too. He gets it. There's give take. There's no question. He's always helping us with events and stuff like that. He's a BDM listener.
I put 5 floors in BDM's houses. I know that my investment into advertising works 100%. I was putting the floors in their goddamn house when they were wearing a BDM shirt. It literally is the easiest way for me to track what's working because I know how much I pay you and I know how much I get back in return.
Well, the other thing that helped you, too, with Floor and Decor, which I find interesting, is that it wasn't all positivity and us putting skin in the game to get them to believe in us. A little bit of it, I think, at the end was the fact that radio had inflated their prices and dicked around some of these bigger companies so much that when we did perform for that lady, she was more apt to come to you and be like, well, then obviously I'll pay whatever because I know it's never going to reach the extraordinarily ridiculous and ludicrous price that radio is. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like their negativity helped us in a weird way in the fact that, like, they had lost their way so much. They had lost touch of how many people were actually listening, and they lost touch of what would be a value or at least a fair price to barter for advertisement that they fucked themselves completely out of it. It's weird how that kind of works.
We did kind of the same thing where it's almost like a tryout for small businesses and say, look, we're going to have a small event. We're only going to advertise it to our Patreon members, right? It's just going to be a BYOCB club event. Let's see how many people we can get in the doors. And when we bring 30 plus people, we're like, oh shit, this may actually work.
Right.
You guys didn't even promote this. You didn't talk about it on the podcast. This is like almost a subset that you're doing. And it's kind of the prove it model. I can show you numbers all day long, but what you guys are talking about with the engagement is, I always say a podcast listener is far more engaged with the individual personalities on the show versus when I did a sports show, they didn't care about me as a personality. They might have liked the content that I provided. They cared about the team.
Right.
BYOCB, they care about me. They care about Alex. They care about the intern. Same with you all.
Yeah.
Because they're invested because we're talking about our lives. But with the emergence of, I say, like, every freaking celebrity now has a podcast, and I feel like podcast advertising agencies are preying upon the celebrity name just to try and get more and more people out there as a way to make money, right? To sell boner pills, and to sell Chryslers and HelloFresh meals. But I have a theory now that And you can see if you go on Facebook, if you look in a podcast group and say, what podcast do you recommend? 5 out of the 6 are probably, well, Rogan and this national podcast and Conan O'Brien and this national podcast, right, and maybe one local. So I started looking at it and said, look, if we use our Apple Podcast or our Podcast Addict or Pocket Cast, whatever we use to subscribe to podcast, and we look at that list, because there's so many, if we get up to 40 to 50 podcasts that we subscribe to, maybe our local that we're actually listening to or engaged with is continuing to be hurt because there's more and more and more. And like, well, now you have to kind of handpick. Well, I want to listen to Tom and Dan every week, so I'm going to be sure I'm downloading, I'm subscribed, but I'm also going to listen. But has that hurt some of the local because of the fact that there's so much? It's this the paradox of choice, right? There's so much out there that maybe those local kind of dwindle off, and now because so many new celebrity podcasts, I say, well, I interviewed this person, and Conan O'Brien interviewed Howard Stern. Who are you going to listen to?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And
we got Remy. We interview Remy. Meanwhile, Howard's got Jimmy Fallon on or something.
And that's just the reality of the situation. Like, yes, now you're competing against gigantic comedians and famous people that are now doing the same thing that locals are doing, and of course, the Conan O'Brien podcast is going to get bigger numbers and maybe the attention of people first. And
it's not that good.
And so
my opinion.
It's just the reality of the situation. So I think if you're a local podcaster, you got to ignore that because that has nothing to do with your own content. And what you have to do is just try your hardest to produce the most entertaining show possible, or find that niche, or whatever someone gravitates to, or whatever your audience gravitates to, or your audience better than anybody else. So who's listening. Cater to them, because those are the people that are listening. And if you cater to them and you provide content that they want, they may not go anywhere else. Or if they go somewhere else, they'll come back to you because they like your personality. Because also you're right in the fact that all these local podcasts, like, everybody's a different person. Conan O'Brien's a different person. I don't know how much personal stuff Conan O'Brien shares, but if it's much like his TV show, it's going to be a lot of like him performing and not very much about him personally. And the more personally you can, I guess, engage into someone and also share about yourself, and the more vulnerable you could be, and that person may relate. Like, for instance, Daniel's anxiety. He talks a lot about his battle with anxiety and all that comes with it, and we have a lot of listeners that can relate to that.
Yeah, they identify with it for sure.
So it's like, is Conan O'Brien talking about his battles with personal anxiety? Like, I talk about how fucking bumbling I am and a lot of my downfalls and my family and like the stuff I go through, and we're very honest and reveal a lot about ourselves that other podcasts and other celebrities may not do because they're more guarded, and therefore you have an advantage over that because our audience is relating to us in some way aspect. I mean, we've seen and you've seen it too, Chris, where people are like, oh, I'm more of a Tom guy or a Dan guy or whatever, right. and it makes sense, of course,
Sam.
Because our Sam, like and like Semantics has her super engaged audience that relates,
Butler, dude.
More to her than they do to us, and because Samantha is her own person and they relate to her personality, so you still have that advantage, because you're still your own personality that other people can relate to more.
And I also to go back to it hurting us that celebrities or big name comedians have podcasts. It can, but I also think it's a trend in that even satellite radio had picked up on years ago when they started branding and kind of branding out stations using big name artists, whether it's Garth Radio or Shady 45 or Ozzy's Boneyard, and initially, I believe that is a hook. I think if I gave Samantha the ability to listen to like even on satellite radio, it's like Rancid Radio, like or Time Bomb Tim's, show. That it's a great hook if you like that celebrity, but if the celebrity doesn't deliver, all it is a hook. So if it doesn't pull you in, like the Garth Brooks channel, in theory, because Chris, you and I both like Garth Brooks. In theory, we're both going to go check out Garth Brooks got his own channel. Holy crap. It's going to be all Garth Brooks. But I got on there. Not all Garth Brooks.
And there's been plenty of podcasts where I'm like, oh, I like that person. Let me listen to their podcast. And it's so.
Like Ron Burgundy to me. And if you like this show, that's great. I like what you like. I tried it. I'm a Will Ferrell. I like Will Ferrell. I think he's hilariously funny. I hated it. I turned it on. I'm like, I can't listen to this. This is garbage. And that was it for me. But the hook was great. It was a great hook. So maybe this is a trend. Maybe. I don't know. But I would imagine that unless these celebrities are going to really hit it hard in the next couple of years, you're probably going to see a lot of them disappear.
Yeah.
And fade out of it. Plus,
I agree.
There's, they get into it, they're excited, but the amount of money, I remember telling Pauly Shore one time, we also went through a time where at one point in time, we had these gigantic names in comedy, the Burt Kreischers, the Pauly Shores, the Tom Segura's and stuff.
The Wayans brothers.
They were dabbling in podcasts, and then when they saw what we had built, they were like, how are you guys making, I never even fucking heard of you, and you guys are able to do this for a living? This is bizarre, because their podcast, they were doing part-time, and their living was TV, stand-up, all the normal stuff, and like they were doing a podcast, but they weren't monetizing it because
or if they did, they had like the national things where you don't get a lot of money from them.
Joe Rogan only had Fleshlight for the longest period of time. Like the guy's making $13 million a year off his podcast. At one time he was getting fucking probably who knows, a couple $1,000s a month from Fleshlight, because that was the only one.
I wish we had that.
But so
I wish I had a Fleshlight.
But we
we do have Fairvella.
We had the advantage that we had to turn this into a business fast and put 80 hours a week into it. They weren't doing that. And then when they finally, I guess the culture, society had turned, and then I'm sure management and agencies got together with them, and they're like, dude, you have shit. We talked to Michael Yo, and he was talking about the Yo and Joe show. Do you remember that podcast?
I don't know.
It was Joe Coy and Michael Yo, and Michael Yo was on like E! Entertainment stuff, and everybody knows Joe Coy. But they had the Yo and Joe show, and Michael Yo sat on our couch and was like, when we did only 20 episodes or 10, and he's like, we had 250,000 downloads a show, and we didn't know what that even was. Yeah. Like we didn't know if that was good or bad.
And they were making nothing.
And they made zero.
He told us they were paying because they had to pay for their hosting and whatever else they had.
With that many
up.
Downloads, you're paying, I don't even know, $1,000 or more a month on hosting. But that is worth millions now, if in retrospect, but they didn't understand. Plus they were coming from a world where Michael Yo was being told by E! Entertainment that 3 million people watched E! News or whatever.
Is that true? Probably not.
But he's thinking of those numbers and looking at his 250,000 downloads a show, and then be like, oh, this is obviously nothing, or this is a failure or whatever. But honestly, worth millions of dollars. But to those guys, now Joe Coy does the Coliseum in L.A.
Oh, he's selling out.
He's making $1 million a night or whatever it is. So, and the thing is,
I wish you'd just thrown up everywhere.
I remember telling Pauly Shore too, he's like, how much money could you make? And I was like, well,
he sat right there on that couch, that great couch in the lobby, right there.
And then I was like, I think you could probably make a couple $100,000 right off the bat because of your name or whatever. But to him, that may have been nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because he at one point was getting millions of dollars for a movie or whatever it is. So that $100,000 or $200,000 a year was like, man, it's a lot of work for only $200,000 a year.
Well, he didn't want to do any work anyway.
Yeah.
He told us that. I mean, flat out, he said the phrase, I don't want to do the work. I want somebody to do it for me.
Yeah.
Well, he's in a different category, So, anyway, I forgot your original question, Chris.
I was surprised.
I tend to talk
the easiest
a lot.
interview I've ever done. Just say podcasting, say podcasting, local advertising, and Tom, speak. That's all. I'm not going to keep you guys much longer. I do want to plug where folks can check out your content, but I do think we are going to get to the point where we're going to see the peak is going to stop, right? There's going to be less new podcasts, and then we're also going to see a drop, I think, because either people aren't interested in it, or it might just have that impact on folks who are doing it and maybe not getting that engagement or not into it anymore. So we'll see at the point it eventually peaks. But where is the best way for folks to go check out your content? What's the best way that folks can support you all during this time?
Ooh, you can sign if you want to help support the company because we're small. You can sign up to be a BDM member if you like our show. But get our app. That's first thing to do. Get our app. Just search Mediocre App or Tom and Dan on Apple, the Apple App Store or Google App Store, and tomanddan.com.
Yep, and our Twitch channel. If you want Amazon to pay us and it's free for you,
Yeah, totally free. We're on it right now.
Subscribe to our Twitch channel and just hit that subscribe button. And if you're an Amazon Prime member, Amazon gives us $3 a month.
And you can find us on Twitch. Search Tom and Dan Live. On YouTube, Tom and Dan Live.
Yeah.
Twitch.tv/Tom and Dan Live.
Yes.
I'm still learning. I did my first highlight on Twitch the other day of the
cool.
intern taking a shot.
I'm glad that you guys are it'll be kind of fun for me to have other shows that I will get to watch on video. 'Cause I'm behind the scenes. Normally I'm just producing the video. It's kind of cool. For me to be able to watch, different shows that I like. Lately, I've been catching a lot of Rogan on video and not downloading a show. I don't know if that's the next step. Seems like everybody's kind of transitioning to these tiny little TV stations. But, that's got to get fucked out at some point, too. I mean, everything's always going to evolve. It's just how many different honeypots or little things can you stick your fingers in before you run out of fingers? You know what I mean? And that's kind of where we're at. I'm just trying to spread our content in as many places. Yep, as many directions as humanly possible.
Yeah, we pushed against Twitch for the longest time just because of the fact of when we're recording at a brewery, we're relying on their Wi-Fi, so it was always it's just too much work and it's not. I just don't want to take another thing upon when we're doing a show and producing it. But now, we had to pivot with doing everything virtually. So it's a way that our intern can do live trivia shows and have a good time. And we had a great turnout. He did Disney Parks trivia last week. We're doing the Office trivia this week on Twitch. So it's fun. But I really appreciate you all taking the time. I hope to do some more of these with some of the other local podcasters around Central Florida. But I know you have a lot going on. So thank you so much to Tom, to Daniel, and to Samantha for joining me for this bonus. And I miss you all. I wish I was there and we could do this together.
I miss you too, man. It is a little weird only seeing these guys because this is what I do anyway. So everybody's like, how's your day? And I'm like, about the same as it's always been.
Yeah.
Because we kind of head down, we come in here, we work, and then we go home.
Yeah.
But
but that's you guys are the only people, you and my family, and no one else.
I've been nowhere. I haven't even been to the grocery store because Andrea's getting mad at me. She's like, you can't go anywhere. I'm like, all right, I'll just listen.
I have to go to the smoothie store and the grocery store.
You're going everywhere. This guy's going everywhere. He's touching everything, licking his fingers.
I wash my hands. It's fine.
Well, hey, thanks for having us on the show, man.
Of course, thank you all. We'll talk to you next time on BYOCB.
All right, see you, Chris.
Thanks, guys.
Yep, see you, dude.
Thanks, Samantha.
You're welcome.
Welcome to A Corporate Time with Tom and with Dan. I'm Dan.
I'm Tom.
Samantha, our producer, is here. Hello, Sam.
Hi.
I had a turkey hot dog, and I got to tell you, it sucked.
Yeah.
When are we having our hot dog party?
Turkey hot dogs are not hot dogs. It's like the same kind of like crappy turkey you'd buy in the store, just put in a tube fashion. It's garbage.
Yeah.
Back to your question, hot dog party.
We can have a hot dog party.
That sounds amazing. What are you bringing to the hot dog party?
Is Hot Dog Heaven doing delivery?
We're not going to Hot Dog Heaven for my kind of hot dog party. I'll bring the mayonnaise.
I'm sure they are, but
are they? Oh yeah, I'm sure they are. But you know what's weird is that's the type of food that I feel like I can almost prepare myself. It almost be that food I think suffers more in a takeout fashion than a lot of other foods. Like if you
sushi,
get a hot dog,
you're not making sushi at home. It's too much of a pain in the ass.
But I don't like. I also don't like takeout sushi though. There are some foods that I have to be in a restaurant to
dine
eat.
in.
A hot dog's got to be at Hot Dog Heaven. I mean, I'll get takeout because I love them and I want to support them. But I'm just saying. It's better when you're sitting on the bench. You got the French fries. You're throwing them at the pigeons, watching the cars go by.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Barbecue, another thing.
Yes.
If you don't have a smoker at home, almost impossible to emulate your own barbecue.
Correct.
Or if you don't know how to cook it, that's a hard... and for those of you that do it, I mean, you're probably saying it's easy, but I just got a grill. I'm not cooking some pork butt. Daniel could do it on a smoker, but it takes a long time.
Yeah, it's too time consuming. I'd rather go to Steve.
Yeah. Just go to Porky's. Yeah.
He's also got a smoker that's as big as my home.
Yeah.
So he can.
You've been doing it for so many years. It's perfect too.
Yeah. His hands. I know I bring this up a lot, but they have to be smoked.
Yeah, his whole body.
I can't. Steve, if you're listening to this, Big Smokey D. If you're listening, Steve, before you die, I want to come to your hospital or bedside, and I just want to use my pocket knife to just cut a little piece of your thighs.
Yeah.
And I want to eat them right before you go. Just to see if my theory is correct.
You'll probably say,
also to horrify your family watching me do this.
Wait until my last heartbeat. Like, why are you doing it for me alive?
No, I don't want him dead.
No, you got to get it fresh.
You got to get it fresh, yeah.
Well, yeah,
He'll spoil if he dies.
Well, right when he dies, I mean, that's
Look, Steve is so generous, he'd probably let you take the whole leg.
Yeah. I don't want the whole leg. I just want to, just a little piece.
I cut out the diabetes. Not that he had
Oh,
diabetes.
my God. Steve, about the piece of your thigh I cut out, it has a little bit of skin cancer on it. Can I trade this in for a fresh piece?
Steve does not have skin cancer or diabetes. All right, so to our knowledge, who knows?
Who knows?
Right.
I don't know him.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, he could have
Get yourself
anything.
checked now that I think about it.
I mean, you could be gay. I don't know. I don't know about anybody anymore. Everything's on the table and nothing's on the table.
So, speaking of diabetes, I don't know.
Speaking of meat.
There's nothing to do with it. Speaking of meat, that's a better
There you
transition.
Yeah.
I should host this show.
You should.
You should.
God,
we were just talking
please.
about that.
Too much work.
We just talked about that 2 days ago. Tom and I had one of our end of the day breakdowns where we both said we need somebody else to be the host, and then we'll just sit back here and make jokes. And if we don't like the show, we'll turn off our mics and search YouTube like we did at the stupid radio station.
Yeah. Too much work. You're trying to think of where am I going to go with this.
I can't even watch any funny
What are
videos anymore.
transitions?
Everything, I'm running 100 screens. I'm pressing buttons. This guy's over here crunching the numbers. It was a lot more fun when we didn't have to care. It wasn't ours, and we knew that some big fat company would prop it up if it failed.
Yeah. Speaking of back in the day, a person that has helped us out a lot in this journey with publicist work, our friend Linda Zimmerman. How you doing, Linda?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
Good. How's old Danville VA treating you?
Locked down. It's crazy. People are hoarding things just like everywhere, and my backyard's great.
Yeah.
How's it, everybody?
You know what I saw? Like when I went over to eat my horrible turkey hot dog, everybody's just sitting out in their yard.
Yeah.
Like in like a camp chair. It was actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm just like waving. I've never waved more in my life, but yeah. Interesting. Well, I'm glad
I'm a little bit over it.
You're okay. The family's okay. Everybody's just kind of hunkering down. All right. Well, good. I'm really.
We actually did some research to find some new trees that we could buy that were like mature that we could have shipped to us, just so we could change the landscape up to look at something new.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
I don't know.
Just put on like VR goggles or just change the background on your phone. It's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Linda, now I know we're going to talk about your podcast, but I've never brought this subject up to you because
oh God,
I thought it's going to be a question that everybody's going to ask you.
Well, I don't know what he's going to say,
and it's kind of stupid because who cares about a name? But when the whole Zimmerman thing came out,
God.
when was that? How many years ago?
It's been a while now.
I think it's been like 5 years.
Probably more than that.
More than that.
Yeah, it's like 7 or 8.
Maybe 8.
Yeah.
My God.
8
years.
I have
zero. I have no concept of time.
I know.
2012.
No.
Yes. Oh, yeah. 8 years ago. And obviously, huge news story. And so the name Zimmerman obviously was tainted. It's kind of like not as bad, but my old manager at Champs, Forrest Gump.
I like Forrest Gump.
He told me that when Forrest Gump came out, his life was ruined. He was like in high school or middle school, and everybody made fun of him incessantly.
Run, Forrest Gump, run!
And he's like, I never asked for this. Why did this happen to me?
I've done nothing to you.
I've done nothing. It's just unfortunate. So, did you think the same thing? Obviously, now to be aligned with Forrest Gump, he's a lovable character, not as bad. Zimmerman, obviously, horrible circumstance. Turns out to be a POS person, obviously. And when that came out, were you like, why?
Yeah. Did you want to change your last name at all? Or?
I did. At the time, it was not too long after we moved here, and I was working for the city of Danville. And I was an administrator for an office, and I would send emails to people. And one time, I just couldn't get a response from somebody, and I finally emailed them again. It's like, this is my final email. And they said, well, I didn't want to respond to you because of your last name. I figured maybe you were related to him. And I was like, ooh, yeah. first of all, not even spelled the same. Second of all, okay.
Yeah. It's the ignorance of the population, as you're seeing with the hoarding, the toilet paper and stuff. People are like, ooh, the same name. I don't want it. It's like why people stop buying Corona beer. It's pure ignorance. Yeah.
Well, I didn't even want to take your call today because it reminds me a lot of the old Sanford Zimmerman. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. Where have you been?
Yeah,
I'm kidding. I'm joking.
My
Totally
husband,
joking.
my husband is a counselor, and he's in the field. He goes as a community-based counselor, and he gets it a lot too. People ask him, "Are you related to that guy in Florida?"
Oh my God!
I do get that from time to time as well. They say, "Are you related to that guy that did that stuff in Florida?" And I'm just like,
and that's your husband. That's your husband, and we should plug him. He's on the podcast. Harvey Weinstein Zimmerman Hitler III.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And you couldn't use your maiden name. It's Hitler. That's even worse.
Right.
You have the worst name luck of all time.
She did not do well.
So,
oh God.
Anyway, I know that's a stupid question, but it shows how stupid society is. Plus, you would think with the advent of Facebook and social media, like, hasn't that taught people that people have the same last name a lot? Like, if you search for your friend and you're trying to find them on Facebook, like 25 of the same name come up.
Like, there's a lot of people in the world. I'm in a group I'm in a group on Facebook
with the same name, like Dan Dennis or Tom Van.
Yeah, I'm in a group for Sam, I keep forgetting to set this up as an interview. I'm in a group on Facebook called the Dan Dennis Group, and it's just guys named Dan Dennis. And I'm like the only white guy. It's all guys from Africa. And I mean like Cameroon, Chad, Libya, real African people, native people. And I'm the only, like, I'm like, hey guys. And they're like.
Any princes in there that you could give your information to and get some money?
Look, those are my princes. Well, actually, there's two princes in there, actually, but they've got a pocket full of kryptonite.
Linda, and we will, I promise, talk about your podcast, but
Too busy talking about the spin doctors.
Second non-podcast question. Being a publicist is an interesting job, and maybe we'll have you on for a Weird Job Wednesday one day to just talk about that.
But change your name first.
It's interesting because I imagine it's different for every publicist out there because it really just depends on who your client is. But how does that work? Am I wrong about that? Or does every publicist do about the same thing, or
it depends. It depends on who you're working with. One of my clients that I used to have was very high profile, very hated by everybody. And my job with her was to help change the perception of who she was. So that was a difficult 6-month battle, but we did it. And with you guys, it's different. Every case is different. Every brand is different. Every client is different. It just depends on what you need.
And do you see, like, celebrities all the time, like, you could tell the difference between their personal opinion and then what the publicist has told them to put out? Like,
can you read through the lines a little better?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of times when I see things on TV or celebrities tweeting things, and I'm like, oh, boy, they must not have representation. And if they do, they're not happy because there's a lot of things people shouldn't be saying a lot of times.
God, I remember when you and I were dealing with a little bit we got to see some of that very early on when Dom Dwyer had yet to re-sign with Orlando City. And he was kind of expressing the fact that he would like to on Twitter. Do you remember that? And we got to actually hear internally them having a meeting to say, like, oh, we need to stop him. We need to get him some social media training. We need to make sure that he knows that there are certain things that you can be fined for saying. It was pretty interesting.
There was a brief period of time in the world where people, celebrities, important people, politicians, they looked at their social media as like, oh, well, like, this is what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with, like, my brand.
It's separate.
You're like, no, that's all a part of it. Like, you being an actor it doesn't matter, like, this is you saying this as yourself, not the actor or whatever, who cares? Like, it all matters. Yeah. And especially with sports stars, like, they were just going to their social media saying whatever, and these multi-billion-dollar organizations were like, please stop! Don't do that!
Some of my favorites
Shut up!
Some of my favorites are a lot of the NFL guys. If you could get a really cocky wide receiver or running back in there just running their mouth, like Roddy White was terrible. Like, he would say terrible things.
And is that just the, like, the ignorance on their part, not understanding the repercussions, or is that like a lack of representation?
Well, it's usually their ego, because they feel like they know best. Even if they're paying someone to tell them what's best, they're going to supersede that because, well, they know best.
Gotcha.
So they think nobody knows me like me, but they're wrong because they're the problem. You as a person is the problem. So,
what's your opinion, Linda, about bouncing back from negative publicity? Can anybody do it, or is there some people that is too far gone? Because even like a Dog the Bounty Hunter, what he said and what happened to him, he seemingly, I mean, not totally to where he was, but
it depends on which scandal you're referencing. Are you referencing
the N-word?
Okay, the N-word. Well, I almost feel like a guy like Dog the Bounty Hunter automatically comes in he's not sticky enough. He's so trashy. It's almost as if
what was his perception to begin with?
Yeah, like it's almost as if Tom Hanks came out of like quarantine from coronavirus and just started dropping N-bombs like crazy.
Oh yeah. It'd have more of an effect.
It would have this huge effect. But Dog is such a trash person to begin with. That I think the first thing you think of is you're like, pretty par for the course for your haircut and clothing, which is not fair, but sorry, that's just a reality.
Yeah.
And then another thing that I think of is it's like it doesn't matter as much because he doesn't matter as much, right?
You're right. What about Mel Gibson, though? Mel Gibson was pretty beloved, and
he hasn't.
And he hasn't bounced back, but he kind of a little bit bounced back. He's doing movies again.
Yeah. He was in that. I watched him in that movie where it's
he wasn't canceled.
He was a dad. He's like. It's a Christmas movie.
What was the Beaver movie and then the Christmas movie?
The Christmas movie with the Wahlberg. He's Wahlberg's dad, and then like he's like a
Daddy's Home too. Daddy's Home too.
Yes, and he's just smoky yellow tooth ladies man.
Yeah,
I
didn't even realize he was in that.
He's a disgusting human being. He's pretty gross.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, anyone can. Okay, it depends on who they are. Their previous, if they've been, like you said, trash the whole time. There's no need to repair anything because that is their brand. That's who they are. But when someone, like if it was Tom Hanks, you can repair it. It can take a lot of time, but I don't think anybody is beyond repair in that sense.
Gotcha. So you can't, like, for the most part, someone's not like, hey, you'll never work again. Your career was at 100% canceled. Like, if they've got a name, they could somehow scratch back to something, right?
Well, there's a market out there for anything. I mean, Tom Hanks could come out and N-word crazy, and all the people who love N-word crazy people are going to support him. I mean,
finally, I can watch Forrest Gump.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're right. Me and Daniels made that joke where, like, we can do a podcast where we say the worst things ever, and we'll lose a lot of listeners, but we'll gain a lot.
You'll be fine. Yeah. Look at his son Chet. Tom Hanks' son Chet. He's the rapper, and he's N-word crazy, and no one really cares about it. But I mean,
you're
he'll
right.
be fine. I
do like the name Chet Hanks.
Mm-hmm.
I do too.
It's a good name. Well, hey, just to switch gears just a tad before we ease into the end of this segment, tell us a little bit about your podcast, where people can find it, and why you guys decided to dip your toe in the old pod world.
Okay, well, we're the Meat Limit. We're a movie, entertainment, and television podcast, hence Meat, MEAT. And you can find us on all the major podcast platforms, meatlimit.com. You can find it on Facebook, Instagram, PFT Media. We're part of the PFT Media family.
Okay.
There you go.
And we decided to do it. Leon and I, my husband and I, had wanted to do a podcast for a really long time, but we knew him and I, our dynamic is okay, but we knew we needed a third person because if you put the two of us behind mics, you're just going to listen to us argue.
Okay.
So we have a friend of ours who's down to do it, so we said, hey, let's just do this, and we did it. And it's a great outlet artistically. It helps you just get away, for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours every week. And the other member, Matt, and myself, we're performers. We're stage performers. We're improv performers. So this is also a way for us to, be artistic, to have our outlet, So we love it. We think it's one of our favorite things, and we hope everybody listens.
Hey, well, how long have you been doing the show now?
We're going on, in August, it'll be 2.5 years.
Congratulations. Awesome. That's awesome. Tom dabbles in stage performing improv as well. In fact, you have one of your classes tonight, don't you?
Yeah.
You guys are doing a cabaret or a showcase, I believe, a virtual cabaret showcase.
Yeah. I'm known locally as Noodle Tom.
Yeah, tonight he's performing Dance of the Sugar Plum Pool Noodle. It's going to be amazing.
I am the best noodle performer this side of the Mississippi. They tell me. I don't,
Look
I don't
at this,
claim
I'm
that.
riding an inchworm. Look at this, it's my penis. Look at this, it's a weird hat. Look at this, world's biggest pipe cleaner. Look at this, it's my arm.
Some professionals have told me that no performer has ever come up with so many noodle stunts as Noodle Tom.
101 different noodles. That's your book coming up a little bit.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil it. And again, this is what people tell me. It's not what I claim myself.
Right.
I do have a noodletom.com.
And also Oodles of Noodles, Tom.
Yeah, that's different. That's my noodle business.
That's where you sell actual noodles.
Yeah, very confusing.
Because I saw it one night. I saw him perform.
I buy ramen noodles and I repackage them for more money. That's all it is.
Calls them Robin noodles. I watched Tom perform one night, and he did his old noodle thing, and then afterwards he's like, "I'll be in the lobby, and you can purchase some of my noodles." And I was confused because I was like, "Am I purchasing pool noodles or I'm purchasing ramen noodles?"
Yeah.
And I just left in a huff.
I didn't take Linda's advice when she's like, "You need to separate this your noodle business from your pool noodle business."
Too many noodles.
And I'm like, "You don't know
Noodles
nothing."
of noodles.
Wait till I scream the N-word. Then you'll see. I want to so bad. Linda, again, people can find the Meat Limit anywhere they find podcasts, correct?
Yep. Anywhere you find podcasts, our website, meatlimit.com. We also have Patreon. I believe it's patreon.com/themeatlimit. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure that's it. So.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, you can find it. I'm on your page now, and I know Samantha dropped it in the Twitch chat for everybody to check out.
Nice.
Hey, take care of yourself. Give your boy some love from us, and good luck with the shows and everything. And let's catch up soon.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. All right, love you guys.
All right, Mama, love you
Linda.
too. Take care. That is our good friend and publicist Linda, who she actually got us in Orlando Magazine. I think it was like one of the first big deals that she did for us. It was really awesome. We got a huge article written about us. And I remember when she did that, I remember thinking that it was fake. Not her part. But like remember the guy came and he was like, because a lot of bigger publications, you can, hire or pick up freelance writers, or if you're a writer, I guess the way it works is if you think you have a subject or something you can write on that you think would be great for the magazine, you can go ahead and do it and then approach them and say, hey, I have this ready to go. And that's kind of what this guy did. He wrote
freelance.
Yeah, he wrote like this freelance article about us and kind of deep dived in it. And then he got published in Orlando Magazine, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we got a bunch of different things to talk about, some voicemails and other things on more Corporate Time. Welcome back to Corporate Time with Tom and Dan. I'm Tom.
I am Dan. If you'd like to drop us a voicemail, we'd love to hear from you. Easiest way to do that is to go and grab our app. Just search Tom and Dan or A Mediocre Time. It'll pop up the little Tom and Dan app deal that we got, and there's an area that says Mediocre Messages. If you click on that, you can be a part of the show, just like this guy did. Another person weighing in on the Tom Van theory of pharmacy.
Oh, God.
Hey, Tom and Dan. This is BDM member Jared. Hope you're doing well. Listen to the Friday Scumbag show, and you and
Jared meanders. I'm just going to tell you.
Okay.
He's a great guy, though. He means well, but he's he's the equivalent of I have a relative named W.H., William Henry, and he is a really handy. He's like one of those guys that can, kind of like a Gannon, he can do anything he wants. But the one caveat with W.H. is that he's very, very slow and extremely meticulous. So if he hangs the door, I can guarantee you he's going to do it perfectly the first time. There will be no problem. It will be amazing. But it's going to take 3 hours.
Yeah.
A solid 3 hours of measuring and scooting and moving and just looking, stepping back and looking, stepping up and looking, stuff like that.
Samantha, y'all were talking about pharmacists and kind of having a little bit of a jab at pharmacists. I personally am a pharmacist. I enjoy being a
Well, I'd be worried about you being mad, but your punches would be so slow. My God, I could just move out of the way.
pharmacist. I'm not going to say that some of your accusations are wrong, because I mean, some of them are right. There are some bad pharmacists, no doubt. There are some pharmacists that just kind of get their degree and put their blinders on and do their thing. But a pharmacist in good working order maintains a strong knowledge base.
Is this how slow you count the pills? Because, like, my God, man.
You're going to be waiting a while for that script.
All I want is my Vicodin. I got a toothache, and this guy's back there talking to each one of the pills like it's his buddies.
Yeah, move it along.
Come on.
Who's in the depth of knowledge and acts accordingly. There
really
are a lot
pisses guy
of institutional requirements and state requirements and national requirements that kind of force the hand and sometimes put us in the position of being, kind of stamp lickers. But we can help patients a lot. And in institutional settings, hospitals, pharmacists are running, head to toe with doctors and nurses in patient care. They're appearing, bedside at rounds.
Okay, all right. I know what you're saying.
God.
Okay, I'm talking about the CVS pharmacy.
Yeah, you want retail pharmacy.
And I understand
Jesus
you have
Christ.
to go to a lot of years of school, and you have to know a lot about medications and the chemical reactions that different medications have and other. But
I say that's not on you.
well, I mean,
It's up to the patient to know what pills he's on, and it's up to his general practitioner to keep a record of said pills to understand that things aren't going to, interact. Man, if you're a pharmacist, you got to just fill the pills, hand the bottle out.
well,
Not my job.
I understand that you absorbed all this knowledge and information, and it took you years to do it. But there is pill identifier on the internet, and there is the internet, and it stores all this information So it's not like how they used to Dave Chappelle's special. There's his mom told him that there's a thing called a gree, and that's the village storyteller, and that person needed to hold all the stories so that they could pass them on to generations, and it was their job to hold the stories. Well, that was pre-internet and books, and someone needed to literally remember the stories, right? But now we have internet and books, and more importantly, the internet, and it holds all the information. So are you telling me that the primary job of a pharmacist is to hold all this information? Because then I'm telling you we have a computer to do that. Tell me something else.
Okay, hold on. I think I figured this out.
If you were a zoologist and you can know every single animal that exists and a lot about every single animal, and then I'll tell you the internet knows that as well.
Then the problem here, where we get into the problem that we get into here, is that research pharmacists, like this gentleman talked about, I think we had a caller a couple of days ago. I mean, this has been going on for days. This pharmacy debacle. I mean, it's Go ahead.
But the more people try to defend it, it tells me that I'm on to something.
You are. Well, here, tell me if you like my theory. I just came up with this right now. So a research pharmacist, I get that. Okay, you work for a corporation, you work for Big Pharma.
You're in a lab.
You're in a lab. But if you are across the street handing me the pills that I take for my anxiety, you are not a pharmacist. You are a pharmacy manager because all you're doing is managing the techs that are counting the pills, right?
That's what we
Pharmacy
think.
manager.
If there's more to it, tell us. I know this guy tried to tell us, but now you're describing like going to the hospital.
You
and
gotta scream less. You scared Samantha. I saw her jump.
You know, you're describing a different pharmacy job. We're talking
Retail
about
pharmacy, yeah.
retail pharmacist. What are they doing? Like it's above and beyond counting pills and giving to them.
Well, I could see a pharmacist working in conjunction with a doctor or a scientist to mix compound medicines to maybe inject or give to animals or plants or
they're probably doing it now
small
with this
organisms.
whole thing.
That I get. I get the testing aspect of it and creating the
hard,
drug. But
more
counting the
different.
pills behind the counter.
Yeah.
Well, they're not even counting the pills. You're at a computer typically.
Yes.
The techs are counting the pills. The old lady, she hands me my pills. She makes me sign the HIPAA thing or whatever I'm signing to make and then she tells me what it is. And did that. I've never seen a pharmacist do anything other than stand in front of a computer. I've never seen them. You know, it'd be more impressive if I looked in the back and they were chopping wood. Like something.
Did they have buns and burgers?
As a former pharmacy technician, we hated the pharmacists, and I didn't even work in the stores.
Oh, Sam just added a new layer, and now they're a-holes.
Well,
I had to censor myself.
They can be.
Here's how we could tell.
Why?
Could this guy that called in, don't know his name, but could he?
Long-winded Adam.
Now, at a CVS or any pharmacist that at a CVS, could they, in 1 week's time,
Oh, it's the 1 week thing. I love
Yes.
that.
teach me how?
Well, it used to be 2 weeks. Now it's 1 week.
Well,
1 week.
You know what he's saying? He's saying that's how easy this is.
Now, I'm talking like a full-time training. Like I have to go. There's a lunch break. Like let's say we're doing 6 hours a day of training.
Yeah, you go there. You show up at 9 and you're out by 4:35.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
And that from Monday through Friday, could you teach me how to do your job good enough for 1 day and no snags to happen? Now, maybe.
Oh, well, with you behind the computer, there might be a snag.
Yeah.
But I think I could do this.
Like, for instance.
Because I'm a computerman. You're not a computerman. Uh-oh. I found the job you can't do. Pharmacists stand behind computers. You're not good at computers. You can't be a pharmacist.
Here's the thing. If you taught me, I could learn. Like, that's the thing. Like, I could.
Well, I taught you how to use Google Calendar, and that was hard.
A lot of it is
that Google Calendar thing, man.
I didn't want to learn.
I can only imagine handing some old lady her Abreva for her herpes. That's going to be way harder than...
I learned how to be the producer or board op for a morning radio show, and I did it for a year.
That
only
is true.
me, and I was the senior producer or whatever, and I recorded all the commercials and every audio piece. I mean, I did it like a hunk of S, and I was horrible at it, but I did it enough for it went on.
Hey, who taught you how to do it like a hunk of S? Oh, yeah.
I mean, I wasn't organized and I was doing it badly. But all I'm saying is I could, with 1 week's training, I go to CVS and wear the coat.
What's your coat say?
It was Dr. Van, of course.
It's not a doctor.
You're not a doctor.
Oh, yeah, pharmacist is a doctor.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be. You'd just be
Oh,
training.
yeah, but my coat says that.
Oh, Dr. Van.
To trick the customers because they don't want to go to CVS and be like, who's this guy? So it says they're wearing the coat. They're just like, oh, and they ask me. And then most of the questions are like, hey, does this medicine interact with this medicine? And I go to pill identifier and I look it up. And then I'm like,
hold on.
And then I just read.
And then you lead over to the tech and you're like, is the internet down?
Yeah, I'm like, yeah. Now, if the internet's down, I don't have the assistance of a computer.
No, use your phone. Use your phone.
Yeah,
I'm going to help you on this. So you got to use your phone.
Yeah,
but you got to excuse yourself to the bathroom. You don't want them to see that.
But could I get by? That's all I'm saying. Because if I can...
Also, don't put Dr. Van on your coat.
Your job's a joke.
Let me
As
put
long as you don't have to compound anything, I think you could do it.
Oh, I can compound anything. Just give me it's a recipe. It's like no different than the little signs they have at Subway.
Because if...
You could kill somebody.
3 tomatoes, 3 pickles. I know how to do it.
Because here's what job it wouldn't work for: carpenter, plumber, electrician, all the stuff I couldn't get by. Podcaster, and even you go
well,
like
there's
managers for like retail stores. A lot of
carpenter though. There's an element of like your artistic, not autistic, but your artistic eye, right? I don't think you have to be artistic.
Well, it takes years to build a skill.
Right, that's what I mean, though.
Yeah.
But just having the vision to see things like in I guess like an artistic linear way.
And I know that pharmacists are yelling right now that it's taken them years to get their doctorate and like they had to study all this medicine. Again, though, it's available online, right? And now maybe not 100%
How many customers
accurate.
do you have?
I mean, how many people come into the pharmacy in an
Don't
average
put Dr.
day?
Van on your coat. I want to instill a little more confidence in the people. Put Gupta. People love that. They love that. I see that. I go, oof, I'm saved.
I can go Dr. Unky.
Okay, Dr. Unky. Dr. Party, I say.
Yeah.
Dr. Good Time.
Long term, this would not work. Obviously, there would be things I didn't know. I'd screw it up, blah, blah, blah. But one day, I think I could do 1 day, 1 week of training. Just tell me how the system works.
Are you opening like at 8 a.m. and you're leaving at 5?
Because I can go to the big jug of OxyContin, count out 30 pills, put it in a tiny little orange container, and give it to you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's possible.
Well, if you messed up. Like, if anybody comes back, okay.
I mean, there's a higher chance of people dying.
With doctors,
sure.
Okay, so I walk up to the pharmacist. I give him my prescription. I go, I've never seen you here before. You're like, I'm the new guy, Dr. Party. I slide my thing over. You look at it. You
I probably
type
couldn't
in,
read what the hell.
You do the normal thing. You put on your readers, and you're like, is your insurance still the same? And I'm like, I believe it is. And you're like, are you clowning me? And I'm like, no, I'm not clowning you, sir. The insurance is the same. You're like,
well, the text will
You'd
do
have
all
to
that.
learn SIG codes.
And then you go.
The tech can help me.
And then you look at me because you're gonna have to have good bedside manner, and you have to say, are you waiting for this? Or you want to pick it up later? And I'm like, well, I've got some other shopping to do. And you're like, well, 25 minutes. Not a minute faster. I swear to God, not a minute faster.
By the way, when you tell me that this, is going to be ready at the end of the day, I'm like, it's going to take you 8 hours to count out.
That's what I say.
10
Well, they have
milligrams.
And you know you can force that.
Yeah.
The
amphetamine salts is right there on the shelf. Just go to the big old jug.
You could force
Give me 30 right now. It can be done in 2 minutes.
You can force
2
that.
minutes.
You can force that because the Walgreens used to do this all the
10
time.
milligram amphetamine salts is a big jug. Count out 30, put it in there. If you give me 31, no big deal.
I would
Give it to me.
I would want my anxiety medication. I'd be like, I
Yeah,
wouldn't get it early like Andrea does. I would wait until I have one pill, and I was like, I'll just get it filled today. So I'd get it filled, and they'd say like you said, they're like, your prescription will be ready by 6:30 p.m. I'm like, 6:30 p.m. My God, I need it now, or I'm gonna go anxiety crazy. So you just keep calling back, and then they ask you to up the time, and then it says immediate, and you just hit immediate, and it'll force them to do it. It's I guess a robot comes in there, is like, this guy needs it now, and they're like, all right, I'll count the damn pills.
Yeah, I've been there before where I'm like, can I get it by the end of the day? Because I need my amphetamines tomorrow morning for work. And they're like, yeah, we can do that. I'm like, all right. Well,
I don't know, Mike.
It's right there. Just give me the jug.
I'm sorry, sir, but my counting brain is tired.
Just 30, put it in the thing, hand it to me. I don't want it. What?
Yeah, even if you don't want to do it,
I know.
hand me the big jug. I'll count it in front of you
Yeah.
and then give you the jug back.
I'll even roll up my sleeves, and then like a blackjack dealer, I'll show you both parts. So I'm not gonna steal any. 30, like I'll dump them all out.
But don't check my mouth.
I'll use your little tool. I've seen it, where it's like a tool that you use, like a pills,
The flicking tool.
and then you scrape them off into the little container. It's like, all right, there's 30, and I think your computer even is the
it
backup.
has a dispenser thing, right?
Yeah, it's like.
I don't work at this. I never worked at
I've
the store.
seen the ones where it comes out, it's like, and then they just hold the bottle there. It's like getting ice at any fast food restaurant.
Yeah. Guess what? Banks have cash counters. They don't even rely on their tellers because human beings are idiots.
And I know I can mix the drugs. It can't be
From
that
what I
precise.
understand, they do have the counters, but if it's something, like a pain pill or something, the pharmacist does have to go out back and recount by hand.
So what if
it's
there's
like a double check?
So
system.
what if there's one missing? Does a pharmacist, do they know how many pills exactly are within their store at all times?
I think
they
so,
should have an
yeah.
inventory.
and not even one missing?
If
one doesn't fall and roll
If
under
not,
the...
if there is, then there's a report taken.
So
for
if
that.
they
You
move
can't
their
have missing
computer,
drugs.
they're not going to find like, there's a Zantac back here.
Yeah.
When they're sweeping.
Oh, don't take that. You can't.
You can't take it now. I've been taking that stuff for years.
Uh-oh.
My dad ate it. He died of cancer. That's weird.
Oh no.
Don't see any correlation
My
there.
dad would eat handfuls of them. Let's do
It is kind of scary when those things come out, but you're like, oh, maybe they're right about a lot of these things. Like, you're like, it got bad enough to recall? That's not good. Like, you just have blind faith in like giant companies. I don't know why.
Which one do you want? Do you want the Zantac? It's like, this causes cancer, or do you want the key on my glove box is a little sticky?
And here's the thing, I don't even know why I think that, because I've worked for giant corporations. I know they don't give two S's if they're giving
two damn doo-doos is what you just said.
all they care about is money. They don't care if anybody dies
They
of
don't
cancer.
give two damn doo-doos.
Yeah, like, so I know that, but still, I'll be like, this ain't gonna give me cancer. They would never give me a product that give me cancer. Yeah, of course they would.
Of course they are.
I've been doing it for years.
In fact, that pill on the back of it, flip it over, it says cancer on it.
Yeah, I know.
It's a cancer pill. Let's do this one.
On yesterday's ACT, you guys were talking about how Tom's wife will keep their extra loaves of bread in the freezer. And he gets all annoyed whenever he runs out of bread from the first loaf and he has to go to the freezer and take out, I guess he takes 1 or 2 slices at a time and thaws them by sticking in the toaster. And he, complained that he always ends up with toasted bread and it just sucks.
By the way, I won't even do it. She'd be like, there's bread in the freezer. I'm like, nope. I one-wheel the 7 goddamn 11 before I eat that
7 goddamn 11.
I'm not eating that garbage frozen bread. Stinks.
Well, you're not supposed to use the loaf of bread that's in the freezer, and just go grab 1 or 2 slices every time. What you should do, if you've got a family with kids and you make a lot of sandwiches, or you're a fat guy and you eat a lot of sandwiches, if you don't want to have to buy a loaf every single week when you go to the grocery store, or you don't want to run out of bread midweek.
Okay, Adam, the long-winded. Is everybody taking their long-winded pills?
We got time. They got nothing
What
but
you do
time.
is you buy a couple loaves at the store, come home and you stick the extra one in the freezer. Then, you start using the first loaf of bread. When you get down to 4 or 5 slices left, that's when you take your frozen loaf out of the freezer, stick it on the countertop so it can thaw on its own. And then by the time you're done with your first loaf of bread, the second one will be thawed and you can start using it. And now it's still fresh, but you don't have to worry about sticking it in the toaster and getting toasted bread every time you make a sandwich, or you don't have to stick it in the microwave and end up with hot, soft bread.
But when you thaw it, it's not soggy?
It's got to be, because we live in a swamp. If you lay a frozen loaf of bread, there's going to be moisture in that bread.
Right.
Yeah. It attached itself.
As it thaws, that bag's going to have some condensation just based on simple temperature change, correct? I'm going to have to test this.
Like,
that's true,
I'm going to take a frozen loaf out today and literally see if it's the same bread.
You might want to clear this with your wife, though, because if it comes out being like a soggy mess, you're going to get blamed for that.
That's fine.
Wow.
She knows my stance.
Then he'll go to 7 goddamn 11 and get another loaf.
Because he doesn't give two damn doo-doos?
Yeah.
He doesn't give 2 damn doo-doos.
I doubt that it would be exactly the same. Like, is it going to be just now a fresh loaf of bread again? I don't know.
It can't be, right? And now my wife's on this kick. My wife's on this new kick now where I can't buy regular bread anymore. Now, I did dodge a bullet in the fact that I'll have to eat that Dave's sprouted bread that's got that muscle porn star guy. F that guy.
That bread.
F that bread company.
Is it not good?
F that bread.
It's
horrible.
rolled in bird seed.
Yeah, and it's sprouted. It's like a living organism.
It's
self-aware.
It's
I hate
moldy
it.
birdseed bread.
Yeah, my mom eats it. She's like, "This is great. It's got tons of fiber. I give big doo-doos." And I'm like, "Mom." And but Andrea gets the bread that's fresh baked at Publix now. She likes
at the bakery.
At the bakery
Yeah.
bread. Now, I will tell her.
It goes bad fast.
It does, because it's not chock full of all those delicious preservatives. It's just a wonderful little loaf of brioche bread. It's great. Like for a sandwich, I actually should have had one today, but the bread is like 2 slices left. Not looking so good.
Let me ask you guys one last bread question because
Sprouted bread sucks. And Dave's. It's called Dave's something Muscle Dave's birdseed sprouted a-hole bread.
I went to Publix the other day, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna
Dave's Killer Bread.
I'm gonna get a 3-foot loaf
I'm
of
gonna
Cuban
get a
bread
3-foot party sub and eat the whole
No.
thing myself.
because I really enjoy Cuban bread,
Yeah.
but it only lasts one day. You better eat that 3-foot loaf because the next day it'll be hard as a brick.
I got a trick for you. That'll help you.
But so I went to the area they usually carry it, and I pulled it out, and it was in a paper bag.
It's
just
always
like,
in a paper
yeah.
bag.
But it said Puerto Rican bread. And then I
Oh,
was like-
don't get it.
And then,
Fight.
And then I was like, is this the same as Cuban bread?
No, you
Racist.
dumb. It says Puerto Rican on it.
Well, no, but then I went home and it's the same. It's seemingly the same as Cuban bread.
Completely different.
So is it different? Like, what is the difference? I didn't.
That's an excellent question.
I couldn't. I'm
I
sure.
too have had the same
All right.
problem.
It says Puerto Rican bread is the island's version of
A Cuban
pan
bread.
de agua, water bread. One finds all over the Spanish Caribbean. It is similar to the Cuban bread in look and texture with its light color, crust, and soft dough, yet larger and with a slightly sweeter taste. So it's a little
Was
bit
it
sweeter than
slightly
Cuban bread.
sweeter?
I
Could
guess.
you tell? You can't tell the difference between Puerto Rican bread and Cuban bread, but you can be a pharmacist. No way.
I guess if I had a slice of Cuban bread to compare it
Taste
with,
test.
maybe
Let's do
I
it.
Could you tell the difference?
But no.
I don't think I could
Just
either.
as delicious as Cuban bread to me, and I was like, all right. They just rebranded Cuban bread to the. They're right next to each other. I can't imagine there's that much difference.
The most aggressive and craziest anger I've ever seen my wife ever be was when she had bought 2 loaves of Cuban bread, real Cuban bread in the paper bag. And we were going to make Cuban sandwiches and homemade black beans and rice. And Isley was still living at the time. And Isley, the Dalmatian, jumped up on the counter and he consumed a 3-foot long loaf of Cuban bread. Like one time, like a conehead eats a sandwich with the bag. He ate the whole bag.
Oh.
And Andrea wanted those sandwiches so bad because she loves Cuban food. She loves Cuban sandwiches and black beans and rice. And Andrea came flying down. She's like, no. She picked up the other loaf of Cuban bread. She's so bad. And she whacked Isley right in his dog head. And he goes, and he ran into his bed and hid. My wife is an animal. Horrible person.
That's fine. You could take
He deserved it.
a bread hit.
He deserved it.
R.I.P.
Later that night, he ate the other half of the other loaf. He showed-
leaving your bread out.
Yeah, he showed
Quit
her.
leaving your bread
You
out.
can't do anything with that bread. If you
I know,
take
there's
Cuban
nowhere to
bread,
put it.
You can't put Cuban bread anywhere and it gets destroyed. It has to stay on the counter and the counter only. If you put it in the pantry, it gets moldy. If you put it in the fridge, it sucks.
Also, my wife's like, put it in the oven. It'll stay. I'm like, no, it won't. I'm like, this thing is going to be hard as it's going to turn.
Put it in the oven.
It makes the turn overnight, and and then you got one little piece the next day, and you're like, I'm going to eat this, and you're crunching a sandwich. You're like, God, it's hard to break my teeth. All right, let's get out of here.
TomandDan.com. I was going to say one firm for life. Delirious. TomandDan.com for all things Tom and Dan. Grab our app, our YouTube channel. Tons of video content on there. Tom and Dan Live. Just search it. And to those of you that caught us live on Twitch today, thank you guys. We appreciate it. Twitch.tv/Tom and Dan Live.
And if you want to support us, subscribe on Twitch, and Amazon will give us $3 a month, and nothing will come out of your pocket.
No,
so
it's,
it's a free way to support us,
yes, sir.
and that will help us out tremendously.
It really helps us out. Yep. We'll see you next week.
Welcome to A Corporate Time with Tom and Dan. I'm Tom.
I am Dan. Our producer Samantha's here. Hello, Sam.
Hi.
And if you're watching live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Tom and Dan Live, if you look directly at the left-hand corner of the screen, you will see none other than, I'm guessing live from Los Angeles, it's our good friend Carmen Morales. Hello, Carmen.
Hi, greetings and salutations from the other side of the country, my friends.
Yes. So, Carmen, how are you doing over there
How
in
many
California?
big comedy gigs you've been doing lately? That didn't dry up at all, did it?
I'm up to my tits in these gigs, dude. I'm like, it's nice. It's nice to be doing so much stand-up comedy. But I am actually still doing it. I did took a $5,000 hit, so just to clarify, I am being affected by this. And so I've started just doing shows online, and it was like initially I thought it was super lame, and until I did one, and then I was like, oh, this is methadone to my sweet heroin addiction. This will get me through.
Gotcha. Now, we've talked about this, and I have seen you on social media promote the show.
Yeah, she's got a gig on Saturday too. If you guys want to, and I believe, Carmen, you guys do like limited runs of tickets, like of like 100, correct?
Yeah, it's only 100. It's caps at 100, so it's not too unruly for me to be able to corral. So if there's any cool people, only cool people,
okay,
you Venmo me $5. That's your admission. I'll give you a link to the show, and I think we're about over half sold out now.
That's incredible. Congratulations.
How do you do that? What made you think of limiting the amount? Because that's a smart way to do it, by the way. And also, what system do you use? What software, and how does it work?
I'm using Zoom. That's a video conferencing call app, and that's the limitations that they have on it. Unless you pay like an extra $80 a month, you can only have 100 people.
Oh, okay.
So it was a limitation of the thing that made it actually not so bad. It was so then I have people. I know a couple of comics who have decent money, so they're paying for it to be able to up to 500 people, but then they have like randos that are like that are screaming, you know what I mean, that are heckling and stuff like that. So it's way harder for them to manage the people watching these shows.
Yeah.
But as far as keeping it at 100, like I can easily go through and just kick out who's ever being a jerk, And the ticket price is so low, like it's like then people who don't have a lot of money can still go. And what's been really cool that's been happening is somebody will be like, here's $20, give 3 tickets away. So then people who don't have money, people are donating tickets so other people can go. So there's like this really fun, like pay it forward vibe that's going out with it too. And the comics that do it are really rad. Like I have this week, I have Nicole Amy Schreiber who opens for David Tell, and then I have Alfred Robles who opens for Gabriel Iglesias, and then me and Brad are gonna do one next week.
Sweet.
It's gonna be awesome. Like comics are so thirsty for performing, and people really want a live performance too. So both people are winning.
Yeah, I think it's incredible, and again, go and try to help out these comedians. Carmen is going to be doing more of these because who knows how long this particular deal is going to roll out.
It's going to be a minute there.
Yeah, it changes all the time. One of the other things that I think is really cool is, and when you said that some comedians are going to in upwards of 500, but they get people maybe heckling or doing stuff in the background.
Trolling.
So am I correct in assuming that, just like any other comedy show, that the patrons, that the 100 sit and listen, but you can hear them, so it gives you a little bit of that crowd interaction that a lot of you guys so desperately vibe off of, right?
Yeah, it still takes a second because with the delay in anything, and I'm certain you guys have noticed having to broadcast like this, there's still a slight delay where we look kind of like news anchors for a second, where we're like, there's this weird slight pause, but other than that, it's not that bad. Because the other thing too is I do all of the heavy lifting in the beginning of the show, so I start the show like 15 minutes before the actual show starts, and I get everybody, if you have a loud background, mute yourself. If you know what I mean, if you don't want to be seen, I'll take you off the camera, all this other stuff. Like I'm doing all the heavy lifting to get everybody on board with what's about to happen. So then we have only the people that are going to laugh. We don't have somebody whose dog's barking in the background, or somebody who's fighting with their husband, or their kids are running around screaming, like all that stuff, because a lot of the times the video switches based on sound. So if that'll happen, it'll just cut to a fan rotating with somebody yelling at their kids to shut up because they're trying to watch the show.
Right.
So I'm trying to eliminate, just like a good host, I'm trying to eliminate as many distractions as possible. So then, so I go through and do all that, and then I also, there's a way to spotlight somebody. So if you're conducting a meeting or a show for my sake, you can spotlight a video. So for instance, like I am directing it like I'm shooting a special of these comics. So when it's on me, when I'm hosting it on me, the spotlight video is on me. Only people can see is the person performing. And then when it goes to another person, when I bring up another person, I'm cutting to spotlight them, and they're the only ones that you can see. So you're not seeing all these other people, like without using that. Anytime somebody laughs really loud, they're the video that shows up. So this way, people are only seeing who is performing. And then when the person's done, it cuts back to me. Hey, what's up? How's everybody doing? I'm checking in. Make sure you guys are having a good time. And here's the next person. And then I spotlight video to them. So it's really like you're watching a real comedy show.
That's great.
And it's interesting because I think a while ago we were talking to Harlan Williams about this, and like he liked to do. I know a long time ago he did like a weird outdoor comedy show on his like mountain that he owns.
Yeah,
in
it was like from the
desert
top
or
of the mountain, right?
Yeah, and then like he did some out of the ordinary like stand up, and I remember talking to him and other comics, and I was like, do you ever think that there would be a time where like people just put on like VR goggles and then one comedian talks to like a group, an audience around the world through personally, like virtually and stuff, and a lot of people are like, nah, it'll never work. It'll always be crowds because why do
It's
it
happening right now.
I know.
It's happening right now.
Because now everybody's forced to do it because literally there's no other option. Do you think that out of this will come a time where people consume stand-up a little bit differently when people thought that would be impossibility? Like you're doing it now. Do you think this will turn into like software and stuff that's made for stand-up comedy?
One, I hope not, because
Right.
it sucks
Yeah.
on the performer's end. But the VR thing was happening before this happened. I was invited to do, like, these people are doing these test shows, but the difference is, and the reason stand-up comedy will never not be a live performance is because it's just so much better that way. Any stand-up special that you watch is a fraction of how brilliant that special is live. Because since I work at the store, dude, I see it all the time. I saw Marin work out that special. I saw Taylor Tomlinson work out all those jokes. I saw like all these people do all of these bits. I saw Bert. I saw Tom. I saw Segura. I saw all these people working all this material out. And guess what? It's exponentially better live. It's never going to not be a live performance because you're going to feel it. It's the energy, all that stuff. Not to be a complete hippie about this, but it's like it is a better art form live. Sure, you'll see more of it. I think you'll see more of it online because we have to. But when it comes back to it, people are still going to want that experience. Anybody who's ever been to a comedy show will want to go to a comedy show again, unless it was god-awful.
Yeah, you're right. Because
I think now more than ever, and we were talking about this with Tony, and I think you've met Tony who works with us, Carmen, but we were talking to him about, he books cruises. I think that yesterday, at the end of the day, that was voted worst job in the world right now, is booking cruises. Yeah. And I feel so bad for him because he works so hard to do such a great job. But what I find interesting is that I think when we do get to a point where everybody's like, okay, we at least know how to manage this, I think people are going to be rabid for cruises, rabid for comedy, rabid to eat out. Like people are going to be just like, it might be like way more than we even know.
Yeah.
I know I'm freaking out. I want to get outside and do something. I want to go to a show. I want to see a band. I want to see a comedian. I want to, have a drink out.
It's unnatural not to have other human interaction, and we crave it just as human beings. But it is interesting.
And it's great variety.
Yeah. But you're exactly right about the live performance too, because I've personally seen stand-up comedians at the Improv and then seen their specials on like Netflix or whatever and heard the same joke and thought it was way funnier live.
Yeah.
Like when I was there and I was like, man, I remember like dying laughing at this joke, and now I'm watching it on TV and I'm like, and it's like it psychologically it is better live. And
that's the thing. That's the kind of thing that I'm trying to provide for people online right now. It's because it's a unique experience. Do you know what I mean? In that, if anything happens, like you're there. Like these people are laughing. Like the last one that I did, people were laughing at things going wrong or what how I have it set up, and they're just laughing at the entire experience. Like people getting to watch stand up right now get to act like they're a sultan because they're seeing this unique experience provided just for them, for this small group of people,
Yeah,
and it's the same kind of reason why improv never died. Comedians like to complain about improv all the time, and it's it'll never go away because people love a unique experience. We love a thing that only us experienced. It's that FOMO stuff. We always like to have a thing that's everybody wants to feel special.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So a unique experience creates that feeling of being special, and that's never going to go away. I don't know if people are immediately going to jump into wanting to go see live stand-up and stuff like that again. I think there's going to be a little bit of apprehension once all of this stuff is lifted. And there's a really a very grim but honest diatribe by Roy Woods Jr. that he did about stand-up, in that the people who are immediately going to bounce back are going to be the famous ones because they get top pick of whatever dates are left. you know? And then anybody who was booked then is going to get bumped down. So it's going to be like, you know how trickle down economics was a thing? This is going to be like a trickle down nightmare for us.
You know, Carmen,
because like unless you're already famous and have a built-in audience, you're going to have to wait your turn.
Yeah, to kind of reiterate what you're saying, I read from not a local comedian, but somebody I think I met probably from one of you guys, one of my comedian friends in Orlando, wrote something almost exactly what you're saying. But basically it was saying that he felt like he worked so hard. This is like he's right at like his 9th or 10th year of comedy, which is a long time, but still not a long time in comedy world, right? It's not a long time at all. But he says, I feel like I'm going to lose 5 years of my hard work and experience because I've worked so hard to bump myself up to a level where I do get booked, but I'm going to lose that now because of exactly what you're saying. The more famous guys are going to fall in row, and I'll be pushed back down to a different level.
Oh yeah, and you know it's interesting too because this actually helped some people's career and hurt others. And if you're just talking about stand-up comedy, when we talked to who won the Steve Harvey Award?
Dave Chappelle?
Ken Miller.
Oh no,
Ken Miller. Like, so for Ken, when we talked to him about winning that Steve Harvey contest, like he just won it before this whole thing happened, and then everything shut down,
and
then like where he was supposed to like have
couldn't
this.
even reap the benefits of it.
Yeah, and then who knows by the time this all comes back, and like even Steve Harvey and all these people are going to deal with all these different things, like if he's able to even get back to doing something with that. And the opposite end of the spectrum, a person like Segura that I know you know, Carmen, like he comes out with this special right around the time all this stuff happens, and I imagine probably like how many more millions of people watched it because
more eyes on it.
Because there's more eyes on it because more people are consuming things. I saw just off BDMs, like the majority of our BDMs watched it because they're trying to consume entertainment now. So I bet you his career, when this thing's over, it was skyrocketed just because of the exposure he received during this situation. Am I right or am I wrong with that?
I mean, I think a lot of people are. I think it just really depends on your mentality. This is it's going to be a really interesting time to see who does what. Like Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura and all. I mean, those people, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. They're going to be absolutely fine. And because everybody's cooped up, so of course they're watching everything. You can only watch Tiger King so many times. You know, you got to watch something else.
And they all have podcasts, and they're all going to be good with if they could just revert back to podcasts. That's the other thing too. Is like
what's going to be great is you're going to see people who are going to figure out a way to create content for people to consume. You know what I mean? Well, it's the same kind of thing. Like I was like, oh, if I can't do stand up that way, then I'll figure out another way to do it, and that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna do stand up. I don't care what happens. I'm still gonna do stand up at the end of this. Whether I'm doing it on a street corner for somebody throwing change at me, or I'm gonna do it for real money, it doesn't matter. I'm still doing it. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And some people, what I think is great is because since there is a bubble in stand up right now, I think this is gonna burst that bubble. And the people who aren't serious about it, the hobbyists, rich kids are going to find something else to, figure out a new way to occupy their time. And the people who need it and who love it are still going to be here on the other side.
Oh, man, I was just going to ask you. I was going to ask you if
it's going to be like a cleansing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you felt like
Thanos snapping his fingers.
Yeah, like I could totally see the people that are here in town that don't necessarily, they just do it,
hobby.
Here and again, and they pop in because, there are a lot of people that we, or at least that we know. Now, again, we're saturated, we're in it, so we meet a lot of these people. But I can see there being some drop off, like you said, of like the hobbyist saying, you know what, I just don't have time to put into this. Or they're going to have to take that amount of energy that they have and put it back into like finding a new job because Lord knows there's a lot of people out of work right now. So,
Yeah.
So, Carmen,
how's LA like? Is it creepy? Is it creepy?
It's amazing. This is listen, I've never really been pro genocide before, but if if Thanos had his way, this is the right amount of people that should be in Los Angeles. Like I get to drive anywhere and it's not bad. Like I drive because like so I'm not cooped up in the house. I don't go where there's people, but I'll go drive around so I don't lose my mind,
Yeah.
you know? So I'll go drive to the mountains. I'll go drive to the coast and go look at go watch the sunset or something. And man, I'm just driving around with ease, you know? I'm driving around like a person. Like this is a real town and not a, you know,
like a movie set.
Yeah, overcrowded.
See what it actually is.
I wonder if this is going to have some effect in. I'm sure there's a lot of people like yourself that are driving around a normally congested LA and California that's a nightmare traffic-wise, and then now you're like, man, this is how it should be. I wonder if people are going to be like, how can we make it like this? How can we have less cars on the road?
I know, we have to kill people.
Well, let's push towards that. Or
yes,
like
half of them after that.
automated cars, something like,
Yeah.
because you're right, it is so much better without traffic, and now that people can see it,
Sure, you guys have to deal with that because I-4 is always under construction. You always got there's always a lane closure. They never
Yeah.
tell you about it.
No.
And then you're immediately jammed up.
yeah, of course, it's been nice to drive around without traffic and without the nightmare that it usually is on I-4 and everything. But of course, we'll just go back there. We don't, we'll not figure out a solution to anything.
We'll go back, and then we'll just have to wait for another virus.
Yeah, you would think that we like, hey, let's make it like this, or like when like Venice, and like I said, I don't know if that's fake news or not, but their canals cleared up and then like less smog and stuff. Like you would think they'd be like, hey, let's try to make it like this because this is an advantage of this. Maybe this is pretty good, like less smog. No, we'll probably just go back.
Yeah, I feel pretty confident. Well, where can people again? Because I want to make sure.
They're not going to do anything. There isn't anything to do because there's too many people.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it is very creepy. Like if you go to like super congested areas, like where there's always foot traffic, like if you go down Hollywood Boulevard and you're standing in front of the Chinese theater where there's usually, a couple of dirty Pikachus and like Spider-Mans and stuff like that that are trying to hustle some money out of you for a picture, it's a ghost land and it is weird. It is weird. It has that very strange,
Apocalyptic,
Zombieland
yeah.
feeling where you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
Where's the other people?
Well, if people want to see your virtual comedy special, and you guys are doing this on Saturday, where can people find it and purchase tickets and be a part of it?
This is very like grassroots spot. Like just Venmo me $5 and I'll send you the link. It's that easy. At the Funny Carmen on Venmo or Cash App or PayPal or whatever you got. CarmenComedian@gmail if you're on PayPal. Just send me $5 and then I'll send you the link and that's all it is.
I love it.
Like I said, I only have about 40 tickets left because we're over half sold already.
Cool. I think we can help with that. The Funny Carmen. Send her $5. Boom. You got the link. Or if you want to be really nice and you're doing well, send her $10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why not?
And buy a ticket for someone else.
Yeah, or send her $6
Yeah,
just
and
because you're a nice human being,
Yeah.
and you care about each other.
Yeah, be a good person. Work on
Exactly.
it.
Well, we love you.
And the thing that I have liked about this is it took a global reminder of our imminent demise to get people to be a little bit nicer. You know what it is? It's almost like a how the Christmas spirit. You know what that thing? This is like a pandemic spirit where people are like, yeah, help them out.
People smile now more. Like when I drive my scooter around, like old ladies will like smile at me and do stuff like that.
Or walking, people are like, "How you doing?"
Yeah.
It's like, it is. It's odd. Human psychology.
I'll be sad when that's gone.
Yeah. Maybe it could carry on. Or
No, it'll never carry on.
I'm hoping that being nice to other human beings sticks.
Yeah.
It'll never stick.
It'll never. Yeah.
Carmen.
You're smart, Carmen. You know that's not going to happen. Well, we love you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Good luck with the special and everything, and we'll check up on you in a week or so.
Yep.
That's great, man. Bye, guys.
Later.
See ya.
Bye.
That is our good friend Carmen Morales, live from Skype and live from Los Angeles, deep in the heart at the Comedy Store.
It's good that she immediately reacted with trying to figure out a way to do something. You know what I'm saying? Because she's seeing success. I saw her first couple shows sold out immediately, and now you know what I'm saying. So she was like, "Well, what should I do?"
She's never gonna not succeed.
Yeah.
You know, like she's like she'll
hustles.
Yeah. Well, she's just like, and she's smart. You know, like you got to pivot. I mean, like what you were saying about us having to do Skype. I mean, it's not something I want to do. It's not ideal. I mean, you heard the end of that. Depending on your internet connection, things start to get a little dicey. And as all of us are doing this right now, things are guaranteed to get even more dicey. You know.
Yeah. And you just learn to adapt to your current situation. There's no other choice. You know.
No, and you know what? And again, I kind of like what she said. There was a heaping helping of positivity in there when she was talking about how it's a unique experience, and she kind of likened it to like improv, and I agree with that. So if you have the ability to catch some of these, because we've even got some locally that are going on. Obviously, you can Venmo the funny Carmen, $5 if you want to watch Carmen. You know, it's funny too with her. The new shows that she's doing, it's like it used to be when she moved to LA. I want to say like 2-3 years ago. It was like it was her, and then people I didn't know, and then it was her and like one guy I'd heard of before, and then it was like her and like 2 guys I'd heard of before, and now it's like her and like everybody I've seen before. You know what I mean? Like I like seeing her kind of level up.
Yeah,
it's been really.
I want to go to LA and visit her just so she can get me into the Comedy Store.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, she's hung out with Rogan and.
I don't even care about those people. I like
Diaz.
the other, like Taylor Tomlinson. I would love to meet.
I don't think there's anybody she probably. I mean, there's only a handful of people that I don't think she's ever like met. She's not gonna like know all of them like first,
right.
you know, by first name or like you know on a first name basis.
Yeah, interaction with some of the most famous comedians.
Absolutely. Let's take a break and we'll return with more A Corporate Time with Tom and Dan. Welcome back to A Corporate Time with Tom and Dan. I'm Dan.
I'm Tom.
Samantha, our producer's here. I have a question for you guys, and I was going to probably save this for a Bird Wednesday. Birds come up a lot on this program. We are the #1 bird podcast that doesn't specifically and primarily talk about birds.
Or even like them.
No, we don't like them. Does anybody here like birds?
No.
Is Butler here?
Butler, you like birds?
No, he doesn't like birds. Are you still playing with that dildo in there? A little bit. Okay. Back to you, Tom. So here's my question for you guys, and I was just sitting here thinking about this because in every video game, and I'm playing Animal Crossing right now, and I guarantee I'm not going to talk Animal Crossing. I don't want to get beat up at the end of the day. We've had a good day today. But every character in a video game, in a cartoon, in I'm sure in things that your son has watched, maybe in Sonic the movie, something, the character of the owl is always, if you go to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Daniel Tiger.
In Sonic, there was an owl.
Is he wise?
Yeah, a wise owl.
Okay, the owl, hold on a second. The owl, notoriously, in Animal Crossing, there's an owl named Blathers that Tom was bullying me about yesterday.
Blathers?
Blathers curates the museum where you take the fossils, and then he puts the fossils on display for the rest of your island. And he's very, very wise and very smart. Occasionally, if you give him a fossil, he'll go on a diatribe of real, actual, like, archaeological facts, which actually kind of interesting. Like, I kind of dig reading what he says because it's like they're actually legit and real. But my question to you guys is, are owls actually wise? Because it's in Mr. Rogers, Daniel Tiger, it's what, O the owl? I think it's O.
Yeah.
He's wise. He reads all the books. And you said in Sonic, the owl is wise. Are owls, if you tested their intelligence, would they be smarter than any other bird?
I don't think so. And here's my evidence. I think parrots are smarter because parrots can
talk,
mimic, and be trained. In Miami, there used to be, I think there's still a parrot jungle, and I've seen a parrot ride a unicycle across a tightrope.
That's blanking awesome.
And then do
Take
other
that, Tiger King.
tricks. Also, I know that
I saw a parrot dunk a basketball, but it wasn't really a basketball. It was an orange ping pong ball that somebody drew the basketball lines on with a Sharpie, and it's blanking awesome. I will always watch a parrot dunk a basketball.
I think you could train a parrot to mimic like X amount of words, and there's some parrots that are smarter than others. Also, I know crows are smart. Like crows can recognize human faces.
Yeah.
Jim Phillips has crows.
And then like do certain things. I know pigeons can be used to fly from like one place to another place and can be trained. They
can remember.
And so now I have no idea about any of this, but since no one does this with owls, to my knowledge, or at least it isn't prevalent or widespread, it leads me to believe that each one of these birds that people do actually train are, or at least have the mental capacity to be smarter because they train these ones and they don't train
But
the
a
owls.
parrot in a cartoon or video game would always, 100% of the time, the parrot would be, quote, the tropical guy. The Jimmy Buffett-styled character.
Yeah,
See what I'm saying? It's all stereotypos.
Yeah.
Owl is library.
Yeah,
Parrot
glasses.
is Jimmy Buffett.
They don't wear glasses.
I'm trying to think of another. Give me another animal. I'll tell you. This falls under my superpower. I can tell you exactly what it would be.
Elephant.
Give me an elephant. Elephant's gonna be the chubbier, picked-on girl
Okay.
of the island. That likes to dance a lot. Give me another one.
Yeah, anteater.
Anteater. Anteater is going to be a little bumbling. He lives in the mines and he helps his brother Anteater dig for gold.
Okay.
These are easy. You give me something hard, man.
Platypus.
That is so easy. Platypus runs the popcorn stand at the amusement park. God, you're such an idiot.
Flamingo.
Oh, easiest one ever. Flamingo helps the penguin deliver the babies. You don't watch Tots, do you?
No.
Tots has a flamingo and a penguin. They deliver
okay.
babies.
And
They sing a song called "Bringing These Babies Home."
And the penguins, the OBGYN.
They don't deliver the babies.
Okay, I was about to say it's like with the flippers, hard to you know.
Giraffe.
Giraffe would. You'd have to go with something tall. So giraffe's gonna be a window cleaner.
yeah. Daniel is.
I'm just saying that I got mad and I'm like, are owls smart? I think I'm gonna. You remember my new thing? It was a new thing 3 weeks ago when I was like, I'm busting myths and I'm like talking about like that's fake. This is fake. I'm about to go mad at owls because I want to call fake on this.
So did you look up are owls smart?
They are not.
Yeah, busted. Fake.
But I guess back in Greek and Roman mythology, they were associated with education, intellect, and magic, probably because of their wide eyes, solemn expression, and ability to see through darkness.
So just based on the way that they look,
They're nocturnal.
Right.
they were attached to
Saying
education.
because they have wide eyes that they quote-unquote see all.
Interesting.
They also they sit on one branch a lot and just look around, so it looks like they're pondering.
That's what your grandpa did.
They can turn their heads all the way around.
Yeah. So like if an animal just sits and looks, you're like, what are you thinking
Like
about?
Caesar.
They're
Caesar
not
does
thinking about
that.
anything.
Yeah. Their mind is blank.
Idiots.
Caesar does that.
It's like Travis looking at the computer.
Doing it right now.
He's over there playing with. He's the owl dildo.
It went to screensaver 15 minutes ago. He's still staring at me.
We know you're not typing anything over there. He's able to sleep with his eyes open, holding a dildo.
He just gave me the middle finger.
Yeah. Just looking at your screensaver.
He's watching it bounce around.
How long can you sit there and watch a little tiny rainbow
Wheel.
swirly-do fly around?
Yeah.
My God, at least go to business.com and look like you're researching something.
So what's the smartest bird? I think it would either be a parrot or a crow.
I'm going to go crow.
I think
I think Jim Phillips told us that crows are like really smart. They even know, don't they even know the difference in types of items, right?
Yeah. Like there's a lot of stuff like that.
Like they start learning different items.
They can
The
use
African
tools.
gray parrot is the smartest bird.
Tom got it right. You were right.
So
Doesn't your mother-in-law have an African gray? Or did have an African gray?
maybe,
Or one of her friends does, maybe. She talked to me about it one day.
It's Bubba's not an African.
Because African
gray.
grays are huge, right? They're like that.
Are
Or
they
no?
the big blue one? I don't know. I'm not exactly
It's
sure.
gray.
It's gray.
African gray parrot.
Is it a small or is it like a big old parrot? Because some of them there's
Some
big.
of them are huge.
Yeah.
I went to that one store, that pet store here in Orlando,
Over in
pretty big.
Edgewater.
that
right?
had that big bird in the center of it.
Yeah.
And it just chilling.
Yeah. But what does it say? How smart it is? Like it could use tools.
I don't know
it
if
could
they
be
give
trained.
it an IQ test.
They
on
should
it.
Well-
give it the Wonderland.
It'll say what it could do, like what it could be trained to do. Like
Can it dunk a basketball?
I think parrots can learn like hundreds of words. Like
I want to hear a parrot. I want to look up, Sam, see if you can find what parrot talks the best. Are there any primates?
It's probably the
that
African
can
gray.
like famously. There's got to be like,
chimpanzees are smart as hell. Like they get.
but can they talk? I want one to
They
be
get
able
sign
to.
language.
Nah, that doesn't count.
All right, but no.
Everybody knows that.
There's no
So
animal.
you want a famous parrot.
Yeah, I want the one that talks the best.
There's no. The parrot is but it's not really talking to communicate. Although I think they will say I'm hungry. which is a old Mitch Hedberg joke. But they will tell you things that they want.
I found it.
Which
Clover.
That's got to be a form of communication, even though that they're mimicking the words and maybe not understand exactly what they mean, but they'll use them to ask for stuff. Like if a parent's asking you for food because it's hungry, it is communicating with you.
Does
right?
it ask for food? Does it say I want food?
I think it can. Yeah. There are parents that can literally ask you for what it wants.
Okay, check this out. I think I found it.
I think
I found it. Let me get
that's the Carmen Morales parent.
How dare you?
This is Clover. Clover the parrot. She's 3 years old. She knows over 350 plus words. She performed on the semifinals of Turkey's Got Talent.
Oh my God.
Turkey's Got Talent 2010.
Is it turkey like the bird or
The
turkey like the
country.
country? Okay.
It was a promotion for Hormel. So it was
I'm just
Turkey's
saying,
Got
I
Talent.
don't know.
All right,
I
so
could be wrong.
Are
Maybe
you
it is.
ready to hear? It has subtitles too, so it must not talk that good. Is it going to talk in is it talk Turkish to me or like? Let's see. Here's the Clover the parrot.
What is this, Clover? That's water. That's water, you're right. What is it? What's a kitty say? Meow.
Okay, so she held yogurt up and said, and then the bird says, "You want yogurt?" Like an old Jewish.
Weird.
Although a lot of these, similar to like America's Funniest Home Videos and stuff, where like the 6-month-old baby like recognizes George Washington or whatever, off camera they're like cueing the baby to
George Washington.
Yeah.
Say it, you idiot.
So you're not exactly seeing the full reality of what's going on, but parents can do a lot of like mimicking and recognizing things.
Let me hear a little more Clover here. Oh, that parents in the shower said, "Here we go." I wish my wife
that
would.
soapy butt.
Yeah, I
pic.
wish my wife would do that.
Let's go to the bathroom?
Yeah, let's go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Why is everything a question?
Want to pick you up?
Because
No, that's just mimicking.
It's mimicking what
She
the
says.
owner says a lot.
Dumb.
You know what? This sucks.
Like you remember.
That doesn't mean you're smart. You're just repeating.
Yeah. Although
That's what I tell Butler.
it is.
I tell him that all the time.
It is.
I'm like, say George Washington, you idiot. George Washington.
It's cool that
It
they
was his
could-
birthday.
I
Leave him
know.
His
alone.
birthday was
Yes, sir.
yesterday.
Yeah, it's over now.
Look, I'm Mr. What Have You Done For Me Lately?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Bill
you had
Belichick.
fun yesterday. Today, you get back to work.
Uh.
You better in there squeezing every dime out of these companies that are failing.
My God.
Take no prisoners. If you leave a penny on the table, I'll kill you.
You got no money to pay us anyway.
What?
Give us your money. I know you don't have any.
What's that? You don't have any money? Well, what do you have?
Yeah, give us your
Yeah,
clothes.
send me a picture of your wife's breasts.
We need to talk about that. On
What?
Friday
I know.
show.
I want to talk about that on Friday's show. It's
Because
what-
I saw it again. I saw someone mention it again. Like, hey, are you selling
pictures.
tea pics? And
Oh, we haven't talked about that on the show yet.
No, I know. We
no.
we
We'll
did
talk about it on
last Friday.
Yeah,
We'll talk about it.
Okay. Let's see. Where am I at here?
Oh, okay.
I don't even know what I'm doing. You want to do some voicemails?
Yeah. Let's do something.
All right. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail message, and man, we are getting a lot of them. I have to weed through these just about every single afternoon, and I appreciate you guys sending them. Get our free app, Tom and Dan app. Just search Tom and Dan app or Mediocre app. You'll find a little area on this free app that's it's marked Mediocre Messages. You can leave us a voicemail message for either a corporate time with Tom and Dan, a mediocre time, a gentleman's guide. Just leave us a message and say exactly what show you would like to hear it on. Here we go.
So the real pandemic is the viral explosion of wet mouths voicemails. Too much. It's Maine. You're from away. We're not New York. Duh.
Oh, man.
Why are you being mean to my friend?
I'm
Manny,
sorry.
Manny, what mouth?
Manny wet mouth.
I'm sorry, wet mouth. Listen, when it's the price of fame.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to please everybody.
You're not doing something right, wet mouth, unless you have somebody call in and go, "Duh."
Yeah.
That's how you know you got them.
Yeah. Actually, you won now that you have haters.
Yeah.
You've,
You're a superstar now. You need to get MannyMannyWetMouth.com. You need to do T-shirts.
Manny Wetmouth t-shirts.
Then you need to get a country western band to write songs for you, do a series of videos where you're lip syncing their music, and then release them in your gift shop at Manny Mannyville.
You know.
Yeah, you're riding the Wet Melts coaster and everything. Let's try this guy.
Hey guys, this is Brandy from Tennessee, and I was just listening to the Calling All Friends Friday Free Show, and I wanted to let y'all know that I'm the BDM from Huntsville that touched tips with Dan Cummins, and it has now fortunately been 2 weeks since we had contact, and I've had no signs of anything, so he doesn't have to worry about having been infected by me. So, yay for that. And I am really enjoying listening to all your content. Thank you guys for everything you do.
Nerd mom alert. Sorry.
What is wrong with you?
Sorry.
Hey, she's so sweet. Did you hear at the end where she's listening to our show, and then it sounds like we do something disgusting at the end.
I think we were saying yay.
Yeah, listen to this.
Content. Thank you guys for everything you do.
Yeah, you were saying awesome.
You said yeah.
You were like, yeah. Well, thank you. You're a very, very sweet woman, contrary to the insult that Tom heaped at you. He is...
you gotta just know you're a nerd mom.
If you really cared about the show, you'd up that... You'd go to the love meter, that BDM membership, and maybe slide in our DMs with some T-pics.
Jesus.
We'll tell Dan that we'll pass the word along.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that.
He listens, right?
Yeah.
To our show? Oh, not anymore. He's way too famous.
Yeah.
His show is way too big. He doesn't have time to listen to us.
That's the irony.
He's taping his own shows. Let's try. Let's try this one right here.
Tom and Dan, Butler and Sam. Jim from Lakeland here. Recently, you guys were talking about people visiting schools like the world's fastest clown and odd people showing up to try to sell their ideas to kids. I went to Tampa Bay Tech, and Tampa Bay Tech was for kids that knew they weren't going to college. So, these were kids 15 to probably 19 or 20 that were learning to do sheet metal and welding and diesel engine repair.
That's good work.
And all that sort of thing. And one day, near the bus ramp, where all the kids got off to go into the school, there was Uncle Shelby and Sister Sue, and they were there to talk about Christianity to the kids, and they were dressed as either scarecrows or Raggedy Ann and Andy. I'm not sure which they were, but they had puppets and the whole thing, and they were received about as well as you would imagine somebody like that in that situation would be. I mean, we're talking about kids that aren't going to listen to anybody anyway, but plus these are technical school kids. These are some rough kids. But the embarrassing part of it was I knew Uncle Shelby and Sister Sue because they were the children's church coordinators to the church I went to for several years. I felt horrible for them. I hope they didn't recognize me and I didn't make eye contact, but that was Uncle Shelby and Sister Sue and their puppet show at a high school.
I am unfamiliar.
Hey, have a good day.
Look at the scarecrow.
Hey,
what?
Your straw fell out.
What is this? Like here,
it's unrelatable. It's not anything that any kid would want to see.
No. Also,
but even if you did something they wanted to see, like if you had a kid who's like, "Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Gamer X, and I want to tell you about Christianity, but first I'm gonna knock your socks off with some Fortnite." Even that they'd be like, "This guy sucks."
This has to be pre-America's Got Talent like show or any of these talent shows. Although Star Search was back. See, because what I'm wondering is like when you show up and then they book this garbage entertainment for the kids
free,
or whatever.
It's free.
Yeah, but yeah, I would be like, wait a minute, I've seen America's Got Talent or Star Search or like I know there's more talent out there than this.
But
like,
it can't be talent though. It has to have a message. You can't just have people. You can't just have like hey guys, I have.
You gotta pay them. Right?
Ariana Grande's playing. Like you can't.
But they pay these people. I think. Like the school board and like the school system, the government, like they.
Why'd they allow like a religious thing to come into the school.
Well, it was a different time.
It's Tampa Bay Tech too. I think
Yeah, but it also, I mean,
there's a private school.
There was more of that. It's since been eliminated more. I mean, I can remember a time when there was a lot more
religious stuff.
Yeah, injected into school.
Yeah, it was it took like you had to complain. You had to actually go somewhere or write a letter. Too much work. Now it's as easy as a tweet to the school board, and it's easier to complain. So you can.
And then you have to be that.
I don't think I ever had that.
You have to be that really aggro D-head parent who's like, well, if you're going to implement Christianity in the school, if you hired Sister Sue and Shelby to perform, then I'm going to have my satanic friend come and perform.
As they should.
It's only fair. No, it's just
only fair.
Don't be a D-head. Nobody wants to see either of those.
Exactly. Then don't let old Uncle Shelby in.
But when I was in elementary school,
you're doing it to prove a point. You're not doing it because you want to do it.
Like
exactly.
I think they had a scientist come do a presentation, and he talked about evolution, and then like the 80s parents.
You never saw him again.
No, yeah. And this is Florida.
Uncle Shelby got
I think a bunch of parents complained. They were mad about it.
See that,
so to even it out, they had someone come talk about the opposite theory, the theory of creationism or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the person was like, "All right, guys, look at this. Like they say we evolved from monkeys. Does this look like your grandfather?" And then they showed a picture of a monkey with like glasses and a wig on. And then all the kids are like, "No," and they're like, "Well, there it is." I remember even in like fourth grade or whatever the hell. I remember this is stupid. Like, all you guys are idiots.
But there is that one kid who's sitting there and he's like, that does kind of look like my grandpa. There's that one kid who's got a really ugly grandpa, and he's like, you know what? I don't know. Let me see it again. I gotta see it again.
But there, and I think too, because the government is so bad at business because they don't care about.
We're seeing it right now.
Then they just they're like, all right, we have a $10,000 budget a year to bring in speakers. Well, guess where that $10,000 goes to? Probably friends and family of who that guy knows, and so a lot of that is this, right?
Hello.
Hello. Hi, I was looking to speak with Samantha.
This is her.
Hey, Sam, this is Greg. I'm calling from Nitro Circus. I'm calling regarding your reaching out
it's
regarding
Nitro Circus.
an interview request.
Hold on one
Travis
second.
Pastrana.
Hey, hold on one second.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry about that. We're really stupid, and
we were live on the show, so we gave you
That's
the.
what I figured. I got that. That's what I figured.
yeah, we're really done. We're kind of going crazy. Yeah, I'll have Sam reach out. We're done with this particular segment, so I'll hang up with you, and I'll have Sam.
Hold on, I want
get back to you.
Are you Travis Pastrana's publicist or manager?
I work with the man, yes.
Okay.
Very happy to do so.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we've been wanting to interview for a long time. Let him know, just because he'll maybe remember this, that I used to be Drunky the Bear, and he watched my... I don't. They're making fun of me, but I think he'll remember that from Florida from years back.
But it would be way funnier if he didn't.
I think you'll remember because he watched my stunt video Counterparts, and his buddy,
did he say he watched it or did he watch it?
His buddy Kenny Bartram at the Do Tour said, "We watched the video. I think Travis watched it too."
Yeah, and I listened to everybody's mixtape and everybody's podcast. Yeah.
I know. Well, I appreciate you responding, and we'll have our producer Samantha talk to you off the air.
Yeah, and thanks for your time. We're looking forward to talking to you guys. All right, take care, man.
Thanks for the tip about the stunt. I'll check it out.
Yeah. Take care, man. We'll talk to you in a minute.
Talk to you.
Yeah, he didn't hear a word you said.
Wow.
Yeah.
I sent one email and I get a call back, but Tom.
They said it was about. I didn't do it.
Also, the guy. Thanks for the tip about the stunt. I'll go check it out. That's not what we said.
Nice.
We didn't say that at all. We didn't say that.
Well, we threw him off because he's just trying to follow up on a. Request.
Everybody's saying you're doing it. You blew it.
He name dropped himself. He name dropped himself. No, he won't.
He will not. He will not.
He wore the bear suit at Latitude.
He's done a million things in his life.
I will bet my life he will not remember it.
No. He'll lie and say he does.
If he remembers it, I will get a tattoo of Travis Pastrana on my butt.
He was drinking heavily. I was buying him lots of Bud Lights, but I think you'll remember. I think he watched the stunt video. In fact, he gave me his cell phone number.
Yeah, that didn't work.
And I told him I was a business management major, and he's like, "Hey, I'm doing this extreme sports park.
I think the chat is correct. I think that you just blew it, and because now they know it was Drunky the Bear, they're gonna not take my calls now too.
I believe.
This is all
you're right. You shouldn't have said it
yeah.
because maybe he doesn't like you.
No,
correct.
he likes it.
You blew it.
No,
we blew
no,
it.
because you go tell him Drunky the Bear, and he's gonna be like, so I call this guy. I was supposed to call Sam. I get a hold of this guy. First, he's pretending to be some old man. And then the two knuckleheads, they start talking. I can't hear anything they're saying. They're laughing and screaming. And then one of them says that he used to be Drunky the Bear, and Travis will be like, no. Absolutely do not. Just tell him thank you, and we'll pass.
He the Nitro Circus crew. He's all a bunch of goofballs. They know I want a big fan.
Well, this wasn't a goofball though. This was a real businessman.
I've seen all the videos. They're down with goofy stunts and goofiness. They love it.
I used to be drunk in the Blair. I'm like, oh my God. Could we go one day? One effing day. Just one.
He'll be like, oh yeah, that guy, the dude, Action Sports Store guy, Kenny Bartram. I watched his counterparts video. I wore the bear suit at Latitudes.
What do you think he'll say that?
I think we blew it. I think that I got Tom his dream interview like he wanted.
You actually did.
It's on the board.
Party!
I got pizza party. But now, if you blew this, then I still get the pizza party because I did my part and you guys just blew it.
If it doesn't
pizza
happen,
party. Pizza party!
I'm on a rap right here. Tom wanted to talk Travis started, but he blew it. Because he said I'm drunk in the bed. Travis said, Goofy, you're really, really stupid. You work in radio and you are stupid. You're a turd. A sneaky turd. Party!
He likes it.
Pizza party!
No, if it doesn't happen, then if something went wrong, not this, though.
Oh, yeah.
This helped it. No.
I slapped my leg, pizza party dancing so hard that now I have welts all over my legs. All right, we got to take a break.
Oh, man.
We'll come back with more A Corporate Time with Tom and Dan right after these. That was a great fucking segment. My God. Hey, guys, thanks for watching. I think, is that it for today?
Yeah.
That was super
3
fun.
o'clock already.
That was super fucking fun. I forgot I have the pizza party song. I can play it now and rap. We can rap over it. I'll do some tidying up. Guys, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Really and truly, you're keeping us sane, right? I think.
Well, doing this at least
takes your mind off of
it does.
Like
craziness.
Laughing this past hour and doing the show.
That.
Like I'm like, all right, good. And then back to driving home with seeing people wear masks. You're like, God damn!
Oh man,
shit's serious.
They clipped it where you ask if he remembers Drunky the Bear.
No, who clipped it? Stop doing that!
Tuna Daddy.
God damn it, Juan.
Tuna Daddy's bullying the hell out of you.
We now are in a time where people named Tuna Daddy can fucking bully you. It used to be only the Biffs of the world. And now fucking Tuna Daddy.
It's
nerds are bullying the jocks.
Yeah,
jocks don't know how to use technology.
You're a jock?
The nerds are the new bullies, yeah.
I'm crying.
More of a jock than Juan is.
I didn't. Look, man. Huh? I'm gonna be serious.
Didn't play any sports or do anything.
Well, you're an unathletic jock. Yeah. I'm gonna be serious for a second. I have tears coming out of my eyes.
Did Norm clip it? My bad.
I'm gonna be serious about this for a second. I think I know you pretty well.
Yeah.
When you said, well, hey, tell him, and I didn't think you were going there. I really
My
didn't.
heart stopped when he asked for me because I was like, oh shit, who is this?
I thought it was something about your home, and
Me
I was
too,
like,
and I was like, we might have to hang up on
I
it.
go, my heart. You talk about anxiety. Look how my pits are. You know why? Because I go.
You guys are gonna blow this house deal for me.
I was gonna do. I was gonna do
person
drunk.
selling Samantha the house. Not anymore.
Yeah, I was doing drunk old man. I was gonna do a mad drunk old man, and the guy calling to sell her house, like the agent on the other end or something, and I'm goofing on it, and he's like, "Fuck this! You're not gonna take it seriously. Fuck you." But then when you went to tell him I'm drunk, I was like,
well, here's my rationale into it. Is that, I'm sure he gets a lot of interview requests, especially nowadays where it's not just radio, it's every fucking every third person has a podcast and everyone wants to talk to Travis.
True.
I'm sure there's a 10,000 dirt bike podcasts and stuff. So he's going to weed that out. So I thought if he had some memory of me back then,
He's never gonna remember.
Can
that.
I play this clip? I might be able to play the.
Yeah, play it.
Don't play it.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, we're really we're kind of going crazy. Yeah, I'll have Sam reach out. We're done with this particular segment, so I'll hang up with you and I'll have Sam.
Well, hold on. I want
get back to you.
Are you Travis Pastrana's publicist or manager?
I work with the man, yes.
Okay.
Very happy to do so.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we've been wanting to interview for a long time. Let him know, just because he'll maybe remember this, that I used to be Drunky the Bear, and he watched my... I know they're making fun of me, but I think he'll...
Name
Because
drop
maybe
yourself.
he'll be like, oh, yeah, the guy, and then be more apt to
How
do
many
that.
other crazy characters do you think he's met in his life? A lot.
I mean, an uncountable
yeah,
amount.
So what makes you think that
the
he's
best-
going to remember you?
The best thing that could happen is
It's memorable.
He's like, hey guys, Travis Pastrana, hey, my publicist told me that you guys have been trying to get a hold of me. It's really good to talk to Tom and Dan. Now, Tom used to be Billy the Banana, right?
Yes.
I don't like. I'm not gonna get my feelings hurt if he doesn't remember, but I thought it would help.
If he calls you like Jerry Giraffe, or something, I might cum my pants.
I can't wait till he remembers. He's like, oh yeah, I love. We watched your stunt videos so many times. Got some ideas.
No, now I got ideas.
You're a
for
true
Tom.
inspiration to us. In fact, I owe my entire career to you. Here's $1 million. Is that what you really are? You're a child.
I'll make
You're
you famous.
a baby.
I'm like, thank God, get me out of here, Travis. I want to hang out at
Your
your house.
savior.
I want to jump into your foam pit.
Too bad this corona's going on, or I invite you to my house.
I'll do your Nitro Circus podcast. And it's funny when they fly me up there. I'm like, I don't know how to do any of the recording.
I just thought.
I'll set you up a podcast. If I can get you 1 listener, I can get you 2 listeners. If I can get you 2 listeners, I can get you 3 listeners. I can get you 3 listeners, I can get you 4 listeners. If you have 2 dirt bikes, I can get you 4 dirt bikes.
I go up there. I'm like, I know, there's a computer involved. There's this big board of buttons. These square things with a dot in the middle.
Tracy's right. You were fangirling out a little bit because when you said, "Are you his publicist or his manager?" and then they go,
Yes, I happen to work with the man. I'm very happy to do so.
That guy was really nice.
yeah, and you're like, "Aren't you clowning me?"
Well, you're making fun of me. Follow the man for a long time.
It means a lot to him.
I enjoy his work.
There's only 2 things he likes, 3 things he likes. He likes his sons, he likes a soapy butt, and he likes Travis Pastrana. Twitch, I guess we got to get out of here. Thanks for hanging with us, y'all. You guys are keeping us sane. We'll see you tomorrow. Spread the word. Maybe we'll get more people tomorrow.
Thanks, Twitch.
Later.